Like to call the meeting of the Transportation and Environment Committee for March to order. Before we begin, I want to remind the committee members and members of the public to follow our code of conduct at meetings. This includes commenting on the specific agenda item only and addressing the full body, not individual members of the committee. Public speakers will not engage in conversation with the chair, with specific council members, or staff. All members of the committee, staff, and public are expected to refrain from abusive language. Failure to comply with this code of conduct disturbing, disrupting, or impeding the orderly conduct of this meeting will result in removal from the meeting. All right. With that, can the clerk call the roll, please?
Esparza.
Here.
Perales.
Here.
Foley. Cohen.
Here.
Davis.
I'm here, and Councilmember Foley just logged in.
Thank you.
All right. We don't have orders of the day on here. We do have a review of the work plan, but I would like to ask the committee if we could hear items 5 and 6 first before the other items. If there is no objection, we'll just go forward with that. All right, I hear no objection, so we'll move on to the review of the work plan. The Coyote Valley status report is, staff is asking to defer that report to May 2nd.
Move to defer.
Thank you. Can I get a
Second.
thank you? All right. Can we have the roll, please?
Esparza?
Oh,
Yeah.
just a second. There's a hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Make sure there's a hand up on the members of the public.
So
Tessa?
Woodmansey?
Oh, there, you can hear me? Okay, good, thank you so much. Yeah, the review of the work plan is very critical as we go forward in our climate emergency, and that we are not doing enough to make our roads safe in terms of, we see that in regards to all the deaths on our street. Every day there's another death. And, don't even mention that it doesn't mention the disabled. What happens that when people are disabled by being hit by a car, and the speeds of our roads and the engineering of our roads and the lack of accountability and accessibility.
Tessa, this
to
item,
what?
this item is deferring the Coyote Valley status report.
Coyote Valley status report. Okay, so that was it specifically on the work plan,
That's
the
correct. That's the
deferral
only item.
okay, that's fine. So it's a deferral of the Coyote Valley work plan. So yes, I have a trouble with the deferral in regards to, we really need to be supporting urban agriculture, and the work plan needs to be really embracing that throughout our city, a work plan to make San Jose a food garden again, as we face the issues of our climate crisis, that we have to start growing food locally. And so to defer the any issues about Coyote Valley, especially because it's being challenged, from the landowners are challenging it, saying that they whatever they want for their development, and that how dare San Jose stop the development. And we need to be, redesigning our general plan to include agriculture. And that's where, we've gone off the rails in our Silicon Valley, designing of our, the Valley of Heart's Delight originally to become Silicon Valley. There's some benefits to that. Our internet is a development is a good thing, but we really need to get back to basics in terms of our survival. And that's what is on the IPCC, the current, the current report is saying that delay is.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. On item C, there are no items on the consent calendar, so we'll move to item D, reports to the committee. And we will start with item 5, Assembly Bill 43, speed limit setting. John, would you like to kick it off?
Thank you, Councilmember
I'm
John.
sorry, do we need to vote on the previous item, just to defer?
Oh, thank you. I forgot about that. Yes, we need to vote on the deferral. Thank you, Councilmember Cohen. Can we have a roll?
Esparza?
Yes.
Perales?
Yes.
Foley?
Aye.
Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, back to you, John. Assembly Bill 43.
Thank you. Yes, Assembly Bill 43, we do have a very short presentation to explain the new law that is put into place just last year. Laura Wells is going to do that presentation for us. Laura, are you all teed up, ready for that?
Actually, Lamb Cruz will
Oh,
be doing the presentation.
Lamb's going to do it? Okay,
Okay.
great.
Lamb?
I think she's on.
Sorry, I was just checking if I was unmuted. Okay. Good afternoon, committee members and members of the public. My name is Lam Cruz. I'm with the Department of Transportation, Division Manager overseeing traffic safety. I'll be giving the presentation today on Assembly Bill 43, speed limit setting. I have with me Assistant Director Laura Wells on the panel. She'll be here to also assist with questions since she was involved with the development of this bill. So Assembly Bill AB 43 was authorized by Assembly Friedman, and this was passed last fall. Certain provisions became available on January 1st of 2022. This bill was really intended to give local agencies more flexibility to lower speed limits in high injury corridors where we see frequent fatal and severe injuries, as well as locations with high concentrations of pedestrian and bicyclists. And this includes other vulnerable roadway users, such as seniors and the unhoused population. It also gives us the flexibility to lower the speed limit in business activity districts. There's also some details that still need to be worked out. Caltrans is in the process of developing a criteria for high injury roadways, as well as high pedestrian and bicyclist generator. This provision becomes available on June 30th, 2024, or when Judicial Council develops an online tool for adjudicating traffic infractions, whichever becomes available sooner. This bill also allows us to extend our engineering and traffic surveys to 14 years. These surveys are important because it gives our officers the ability to enforce speed using their radar guns. Surveys, they usually need to be redone every 7 years. Prior to this bill, we were able to extend it to 10 years if there are no significant changes to the roadway. This bill allows us to extend it to 14 years. As many of you are probably well aware, during COVID time, with people driving less, there was less traffic on the roadways and speeds have gone up. At that time, we did not think it was advisable to redo our engineering traffic surveys. So we will be taking advantage of this opportunity and applying it where it makes sense. So for the business activity districts, there are criteria to it. There can only be 4 lanes maximum, a maximum posted speed limit of 30 miles per hour. The segment prior and after it can only be a 5 mile per hour difference. It also needs to meet 3 of the following 4 criteria. 50% of the street needs to consist of retailer dining that opens directly onto the sidewalks. Signals or stop signs cannot be no more than 600 feet apart. Uncontrolled marked crosswalks, or it needs to have to have on-street parking. The business activity district is basically a new category of prima facie speed limit, which is similar to school zones. So based on our first assessment, we were able to identify 6 streets where we could lower the speed limit to 20 miles per hour. The 6 streets are Evergreen Village Square. In downtown, we have 3 streets that we identified: Santa Clara Street, Almaden Avenue, and Post Street. Willow Street in the Kaye Willow area, and Jackson Street in Japantown. So we'll be bringing these 6 streets to council later this spring. We're also in the process of procuring a consultant to identify other streets that would also be eligible under this bill. And they'll also help us get our other surveys up to, to revalidate them. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you, and I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you. We will take comments from the public first.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Happy March to everyone, 2022. This sounds, I'm a bit concerned about this bill. It sounds like it can really help what, bicycle advocates and local people of local neighborhoods really are looking for, what they need for their future planning of safer streets for our local community future. And I'm really for the ideas of 20-mile-an-hour speed limits in business zones and the like. I'm all for the slower streets idea, incredibly so. It's just a matter of the technology use that's involved that I will always be apprehensive about using more and more technology to define and enforce our policies of how we can move slower with our automobile traffic in the future. If you do go forward with technology practices to enforce and to monitor and to data collect for slower speed issues, as always, if you can make that technology just open and accountable and understandable to the everyday public, that's part of the keys to our future. It isn't just the technology itself, it's having open public policies that's going to help define the future of our sustainability, more workable communities in our future, and really the ideas of Vision Zero behind community harmony and better practices for ourselves. And it builds community harmony with more openness and accountability. So just a reminder of those things, and good luck on how we can work to keep things slow. Thanks a lot.
Tessa?
Yeah, thank you. Tessa Woodman C. And I'd like it to be put into the record that I guess it's, what's her name? Tony Tabor just cuts me off because the way Vice Mayor Jones has always said, he would say, okay, get back onto the topic. You don't just cut people off. You let them know that if you feel that they're not on the topic, you don't just shut them off and give Tony Tabor the right to, or whoever gets the right to just shut it down. So hopefully that gets in the record, so that's that issue. But the issue of, slowing our streets down is so critical, not only for our fossil fuel use, but for the saving of our lives, literally. And so we have to do that more. And so we're very supportive of 20 miles per hour. That is where so much less damage happens. And we need to do that in all our roads, actually. And so, and the thing is, we really need to make this code of conduct, whatever. Now, are you saying whatever? Anyway, and so the basic thing that I'm saying is that, we need to make these things more available to the public, this data that even this issue of certain roads are the ones that are available to be slowed down. That's good. But there needs to be a way that we can access the data of the DOT so that when we have complaints, they don't just go into a garbage can, because that's what's been happening in terms of Stockton Avenue in regards to the concerns that I have, and on Taylor Street and all the streets that intersect Stockton. There's no database where that gets reported. And so, and even they say there's been a lot of injuries, that needs to be open to the public, and also so that we can, when we make a complaint, we can see it registered. Because, when I speak to my council member, she says, well, it's not on the agenda or something like that. It needs to be on the agenda. Oh, and not enough people have complained. And it should be enough that one person complains.
Edgar Ariano.
Hi, yes, Edgar Ariano here with California Walk San Jose. Just in support of the reading of this bill and, contextualizing it with what is San Jose. I hope that the engineering follows suit with the setting of the speed limit, not just, putting a policy in place and hoping that everybody's going to play fair. There needs to be the engineering and the education side of it. So thinking long term, I hope, that the reading of this bill out loud in this arena is not just for setting enforcement standards, but for, really putting some kindling for what is the engineering and the educational fixes as well. Thank you for your time.
Avery.
Hi, I was going to say something, but the last person said it wonderfully. I would love to see more than just signs posted and tickets given, but engineering done to make streets narrower, maybe give more space to bikes, maybe even separate space and pedestrians, and maybe that can help beyond what you're already doing. Thank you.
Caller ending in 4379.
Hi, I'm strongly supportive of reducing speeds, especially in the Japantown corridor. This is, as the callers have mentioned, just one tool in the toolkit. But yeah, I think it's great that this is now an option. Recently, I was riding in Japantown on the very segment mentioned in the report. And rather than taking the sidewalk because it was crowded with pedestrians, I took the lane because there's no bike lanes either in the angled parking. And I was with my girlfriend, and the car behind me was respectful, but the car behind them was very angry at the speed we were all going at. And we have electric bikes. We were actually going, a good speed, probably close to, 15 miles per hour. And he punished, so he zoomed past the car behind us and then punished past us, and he screamed at the top of his lungs outside of his window that we belonged on the sidewalk. And I think it's incredibly important because, I've been trying to convince my girlfriend that riding around in San Jose, especially downtown, is pretty safe. And I did follow up with DOT and the D3 office to try to get some kind of, that the bikes can take the lane, or some kind of signage or paint on the ground to indicate that we were allowed to take the lane. And I believe the vehicle code says that we can take the lane as long as we're going, close to the speed limit. So of course, bringing it down to 20 miles per hour makes that a lot easier as well. So yeah, overall, I'm very supportive, and I'm glad to see some of the bigger cities already moving on this, whether it's Oakland, I think San Francisco and LA as well. Thank you.
Jill Borders.
Hi, thank you. This is Jill Borders, and I am so grateful that there's something being done and talked about to reduce speed limits. I'm all for reducing speed wherever we can in our cities. I wanted to comment and hope that I can just bring up this one street that you might want to look and add to the list because it's such a unique circumstance, in my opinion. I have to travel it every day. Obviously, I live off of Winfield Boulevard between Blossom Hill Road and Coleman Avenue. And so Winfield has become an absolute sort of racetrack to get people to get from Coleman, if they've been in Almaden or wherever, and to get to Blossom Hill. It really becomes almost like a little racetrack in the morning. People may be trying to bypass one area to get to another. But this is a light industrial area on one entire side of the street. And it's residential, of course, for our mobile home park. Now, all along the entire strip, all of the light industrial people will actually park their cars there, and every single morning they all run across. So there's no crosswalk anywhere. Not that anyone would use one. I'm not advocating for that. But all the workers will park their car and then run across. And because it's a lot of auto body shops, a lot of people will park their their cars for either painting or repair. And so all day long, every day, we have people running back and forth. So teaching, for example, my teenager to drive was an absolute terrifying experience because it's like Frogger with people on Winfield. So I'm just letting you know, if you want to consider reducing a speed limit anywhere in the city and prevent what could be a horrible eventual pedestrian accident, you will consider looking at the street of Winfield between Coleman Avenue and Blossom Hill Road, because there are pedestrians on it every day crossing intentionally, purposefully to get to where they need to go.
Gabby Mendoza.
Hi, yes, can you hear me? Cool.
Yes, we can hear you.
Cool. Yeah, I agree strongly on this because over here, I hope that you guys can implement it in Kerner and Monterey Road. I see they already put cameras in there, and they already put a green fence on one side of the street because that right there is very dangerous. And I hope that you can look also in the east side of San Jose, okay, because there's some streets like behind Parkway. Right there in Cinderella, they run like crazy out of the Hopkins Street. And I hope that we can do something also in that side of town because we need it. Okay, and I agree with the bicyclists. We need to wait, give them the right of way. They're trying to save the environment. They get up earlier to go to work in the bike. We have to give them the right of way. Okay, they're trying to save the environment and they're doing the right thing, and then they're getting honked all over the place and chased and pushed around, and that's not nice. We need to respect them. Thank you.
Call in user 1.
Hey, let's start with timing the lights and fixing the potholes and repaving the roads first. This whole speed limit thing is another what I call zero vision. You guys call it vision zero. I call it zero vision. But some road repavings on Cherry Avenue were quite nice. Good painting, good bike lanes. Other places, not so much. Downtown is terrible. It's a failure. Whoever did the bike lanes downtown is a loser. Some of the bike lanes, like I say, are good. Others are very non-intuitive for both cyclists and drivers. Keep in mind, drivers are the ones who pay the taxes and the fees for everything. Bicyclists don't. Sorry, people, but you just don't. Your bicycle doesn't have a registration sticker on it like my car does. Okay, anybody can ride a bike, but not everybody can drive a car. That whole privilege thing. So if I have a privilege to drive on the road, I shouldn't have to be inconvenienced with non-intuitive roads, potholes, badly painted lanes, bike lanes that overtake an entire lane where you can barely even drive on. Like I say, some things are good, but a lot of things are terrible, done in what I call the San Jose way, right? Really bad, not very good, zero vision. That's what it's all about in this town. So get it straight. But I mean, you guys want to do what you did downtown to the rest of the city? That's a fail, okay? Look at your downtown. It's a fail. Who's down there? Nobody but bums puking, okay? That's who's down. They're on bicycles too. Isn't that good? They're not, at least they're not, leaving a carbon footprint. The only footprint you see is someone who walked through their vomit. That's what you see down there. Or something else, we can't even talk about. I get kicked off the air because I might say a bad word.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. And Lamb, thank you for the presentation. I have a question for you on a couple of things. I'm really glad to see that we're able to lower the speed limit. I think that is critical. Narrowing lanes and lowering the speed limit will slow down traffic, and slowing down traffic will eliminate some of the injuries we have on the road and pedestrian deaths. But I'm wondering how were those streets selected that you listed in your presentation?
Sure, as I mentioned earlier, we did look at the ones that are classified as business districts. We looked at those and we took a closer look and looked at the criteria, the 4 that I had mentioned, to see if they meet 3 of the 4 of the following criteria, which is it needs to have 50% of retail or dining that fronts the street. If it had controlled stops such as a signal or stop sign no more than 600 feet apart, on-street parking and or unmarked crosswalks. So we had to go through that exercise and really determine if it was eligible or not. So that's the first round of it. And, like I mentioned earlier, we are procuring consultant services and we'll be identifying hopefully more that we could bring so that we can lower the speeds on streets beyond the ones that I presented earlier.
Okay, thank you. So this reduction relates to business districts and not residential streets. Is that
correct?
Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yes. Like I mentioned, it was like 50, we would need to have 50% of retail or dining for it to be eligible, or at least that's one of the criteria.
Okay, so this is why, because one of the streets that comes to mind to me is Kirtner, and Kirtner probably doesn't meet the business district criteria along many of its stretches. Most of it's residential along its stretches until you get, closer to Monterey Road. Lincoln Avenue and Almaden. The next question I had is, I know these are our streets, but we've recently had several pedestrian deaths on an expressway, on Almaden Expressway near Foxworthy. And I'm wondering if we have, or how we would discuss with some of our partnerships like the county to lower the speed limit in those stretches. Is that something that you would implement or get started? How would we proceed to get them to take a look at lowering their rates, their speed?
So maybe I can touch a little bit on what you mentioned earlier. For example, Kirtner, although it doesn't meet a business activity district, it likely may fall under other provisions that I mentioned, where Caltrans is developing what a high injury roadway is, where we can take a 5 mile per hour reduction. So when those provisions become available, we'll also be evaluating safety corridors where we can take that additional reduction. In terms of your response to our coordination with the county, I'm not sure if we want to reserve it for the next item, but maybe I can quickly touch on it because I know Jesse's going to give a presentation on the data piece. But we are in coordination with them. We have evaluated, what our top intersections are that intersect with the county. They are looking at our data to see if, it aligns with theirs, and then we'll be discussing a plan on how we can improve those intersections together. They do have an active transportation plan as well to see if there's opportunity for us to leverage some of, the projects that would go into that plan.
I appreciate that. And if this comes up under Jesse's report, I'll bring it up there too. But I would suspect that a year ago, Foxworthy and Almaden Expressway would not rise to the level of concern because I don't think there were any injuries or fatalities right there. But in the last 2 months, we've had 3 fatalities and 1 serious injury. So something's happening right there that we need to address immediately. So I'll just throw that out there and hope that we continue to look at that with the county, because it is county and we need some assistance in that intersection, I think. So with that, I look forward to the Vision Zero report, which I think is probably next. Thank you, Lamb. I'm finished, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Foley. Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the update as well. I'm excited and looking forward to this opportunity. Obviously, it's going to be a couple years before we can see the full implementation of it, and I'm a little concerned in regards to how restrictive it looks and some of the limited corridors that we will potentially be able to reduce the speed. And as I understand, only 5 miles per hour less than what is currently posted. So I like the streets that you've mentioned already. I would agree with some of the speakers on the benefits there, but surprised to see other corridors that may not be there. For instance, Lincoln Avenue. I'm not certain what the speed limit there is now. Maybe our chair knows it.
25 on the commercial stretch.
And I'm curious, Chair, if you're surprised about that as well. I thought maybe Lincoln would be included.
Yes, it was actually going to be one of my questions for Lamb.
All right.
Feel free to ask it.
Forwarding that question through, I was just surprised as
yes.
Knowing how potentially similar that corridor is to some of the other streets, like Jackson, Japantown, and Santa Clara Street. So maybe Lamb, you could help in that regard, and then you can make it more broad of an answer too as well. Like for instance, Lincoln is a specific street, but then maybe other streets that would be similar, and how what was it that disqualified them?
Like I mentioned, there were 4 different criterias that we looked at, and 3 of them had to be.
Lamb, do you want me to?
Sure.
Okay. So Lincoln Avenue between Minnesota and Co. definitely meets the intent of the bill in terms of classifying it as an urban business activity district. The factor that is disqualifying it is the approach to Lincoln Avenue to the south is 35 miles per hour. And the bill, in order to establish a 25 mile per hour business activity district, the approaches on either end need to be no more than 30 miles per hour. And then to establish a 20 mile per hour business activity district, the approaches need to be no more than 25 miles per hour. What we will be looking at in the second round is there some creative way we can look at streets like Lincoln Avenue? Can we somehow either adjust the speed limit coming into the segments, or can we look at a segment, the initial sections of Lincoln Avenue that are 25, and establish a slightly smaller segment of a business activity district that is 20. So we would meet the criteria of the bill. It would be 25 initially coming in, and a smaller stretch would be the 20. And so we need to look at that and look at what makes sense. But we are aware of that there's other streets out there that we would like to apply this to as well.
Okay, yeah, and I'll let Councilmember Davis expand on that, but it makes more sense now, and it sounds like it's the varying speed limits, especially the ones entering into the corridor there. You mentioned about potentially reducing those speed limits. Aren't we in the same boat though, right? Where it becomes challenging, right? That's why this assembly bill was a benefit, because it's hopefully making it easier to reduce speed limits. So how is it that that we could potentially reduce the speed limit entering this corridor on Lincoln, if we try to drop that by 5 to then be able to take advantage of dropping, to 20 miles an hour in the corridor?
We would have to do an official state type survey on the smaller segments coming into the corridor. Or
so it would just following the current procedure that we currently have right now to change it, which is much more intensive of a procedure. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would personally, whether it's Lincoln Avenue or other corridors in the city, I would love to see, which ones came close, right? That they meet, as you mentioned, Lincoln meets the spirit, right, of an area that we would want to do this at. And then see what we need to do, and if we need to go through a more lengthier process of reducing, the incoming speed limits, then maybe we do that, right? And we try to take advantage, because I do think that, right, we unfortunately are in a region of the country that was built around the automobile, and it was built around moving as fast as possible between point A and B, and because of that, we have this layout of roadways that we have today, and we have the speed limits that we have today, and more importantly, or more challenging, I should say, we have these protections on how we can reduce the speed limits, and how we can install traffic calming barriers or traffic signals and stop signs. And right, it's everything is catered towards moving as quickly as possible between point A and B in a vehicle. That is sort of, that is priority one that has been in existence for so long, that all the policies and parameters to get around that are making it more challenging to do what today I think we have much more of an appetite from our community to want, which is to actually slow down some of the traffic, especially in some of these corridors, make it safer, right? Put more traffic calming and traffic signals, and and really make it these multimodal streets where it's safer for everybody, whether they're pedestrians or bicyclists or in cars. And so, but again, it is not very easy, and I've learned that now over the years on how difficult it has been to do things like change the speed limit or reduce the speed limit, I should say, and that's why I was excited about this assembly bill. But it is looking to have sort of barely put a dent in the process, so maybe not as effective as I was hoping it would be, and I'm hoping that staff will be able to help us figure out how we can make it even more effective and add more corridors to that list. That's it for my questions for now. I appreciate staff's engagement on this and bringing it back, and I'll turn it over now. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Perales. I very much appreciate your comments and share the disappointment that Assembly Bill 43 was not more wide-ranging. Lam, I want to thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. I thought perhaps, just to circle back to the Lincoln Avenue issue, I thought perhaps it might have been about the south approach, and because it is a higher speed limit, but it did also, I was wondering about the lanes. When we're talking about 4 lanes, 4 traffic lanes maximum, does that also include if there's a center turn lane? Is it 4 lanes total or just in each direction as opposed to a center turn lane, which is bi-directional?
I'll defer to Laura.
It's
you have the
intended
answer
to
that.
be, I would argue it's intended to be primary travel lane, so the center lane would not be included.
Okay, and then if there's a left turn pocket in
Right.
at some intersections, that would not be included either.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand kind of what the spirit of the law is. And then uncontrolled marked crosswalks, if it is not a traffic signal marked crosswalk, but it is a lighted crosswalk, does that count as uncontrolled still?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, you know, even if you can push the button and have the flashing lights, that counts as sort of uncontrolled.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. It's interesting they started with the business districts, given that I share Councilmember Foley's concern, particularly about our intersections by Almaden Expressway and our intersection or our Kirtner lanes of travel. Do we have June 30th, 2024 is 2 years from now? What's the online tool that they're talking about? That it's whichever is earlier?
So the establishment by the Judicial Council of an online tool for infractions, and it's more than just traffic infractions, was already state law. What was built into this bill is that before a city could implement the provisions of the bill pertaining to lowering speed limits on safety corridors, so our priority safety corridors, or locations that are near high activity for pedestrians and bicyclists. So before we can implement that aspect of the bill, one, Caltrans has to develop the guidelines, because the state, there were concerns about having each city doing something different. So Caltrans needs to develop the guidelines, which we anticipate will occur within the same time frame that the Judicial Council has to develop this online adjudication tool. So there was a concern, and with regards to that, is if we're lowering the speed limit, conceivably there might be more citations being issued. And so there was a desire to have this tool in effect. If it's not in effect by June 2024, but Caltrans has developed their guidelines, then we will be able to use those guidelines beginning that date.
Okay. Are we going to be in contact with Caltrans while they are designing their guidelines?
So I am on a, it's a mouthful. California Traffic Control Devices Committee is the body that advises Caltrans on changes to the California Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So I am on a subcommittee of that broader committee to make sure they incorporate AB 43 correctly. And there is one of our meetings is going to be meeting the group within Caltrans that is developing the guidelines for how safety corridors will be determined and how the high pedestrian bicyclist generators will be determined. So very much intend to weigh in on that process.
Great, and thank you. I'm glad to hear that. One of the criteria that might be useful is to talk about when we're looking at pedestrians and bicyclists, looking at proximity to schools. As opposed to having to go out and count and try to figure out, especially because we may not have the walkers and bikers before we lower the speed limit. But if we lower the speed limit in those areas, we will be able to better encourage walking and biking, as I think most kids should be getting to school those ways anyway. So I would put that forward as a potential criterion to consider. And that would, by the way, that would take care of the that stretch of Lincoln Avenue as well. That's over 30 miles an hour now because it is in proximity to 3 schools. Just off the top of my head, there may be more, and daycares. So maybe put that in there as well.
And parks and community centers and
there you go.
a whole host of locations.
Right. And then I think, Lamb, you mentioned having a consultant to identify all the eligible streets in the city that could be part of this program. What's the timeline for getting that consultant and for the consultant's report to come back to us?
Sure. So we have the RFQ posted last week. So that closes at the end of March, and with just kind of the administrative process, hope to get them on board in the summer timeframe.
And then how long do they have to do their work?
So there's 2 parts. One is the engineering piece. The other one is, analysis, identifying whether it's the eligible streets or having them look at other streets that need to be revalidated, but potentially where we can lower the speed limit just by conducting a survey. So I don't have that timeline on hand. We'll be giving them a batch of the ones that need to be extended. I don't have that, but I can get that to you in terms of the timeline. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And I appreciate that we're working together with the county and plumbing them for pots of money to help with some of this work to improve our safety at shared intersections. So I very much appreciate that. Do any of my colleagues have any other questions or comments? All right, seeing
Do you need a
none.
motion?
Since it was a verbal report, I don't think so, but I'll defer to our deputy city manager. Rob, do you think we need a motion for this?
To accept the report, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I
Move
guess
to
so.
accept the report.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, can we have a vote?
Esparza,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move on to item 6, the city roadmap Vision Zero traffic safety status report.
Thank
John?
you, Chair. This is John Risto again, Director of Transportation, and this is a very serious issue that we wanted to bring to the committee. To restate it, I know this committee knows very well, City of San Jose has a Vision Zero program with the objective to actually reduce that trend of fatalities and significant injuries as a result of car crashes. And what we have here is a pretty serious issue of an increase of crashes that has resulted in fatalities during the first few months of 2022. So that's why we're here to talk about that. We actually have seen that trend actually start in the second half of 2021, where we saw an increasing amount of crashes that are occurring. So the trend actually started last year. It is now continued into 2022, and that's why we're taking it very seriously. While we are not alone, meaning the city of San Jose, nationally and within California, as we've been tracking that data, we've been seeing that all across the country, it's up about 17% over 2021 in terms of fatalities as a result of automobile crashes. Well, we agree, and this is something that we're taking seriously. This is a San Jose issue. So while it may be happening in the California or nation, this is something that we need to deal with. And we know that we need to redouble our efforts to actually try to get this trend reversed and see if we can make these streets safer. The good thing is we do have a very, very effective Vision Zero task force that both Councilmember Foley and Perales are intimately involved with and helping us to get to that level. But these results, it's all about results. And right now we're seeing significant increase, and we need to actually take a look at what's going on and then redouble efforts to try to reverse that. So today we're going to talk about the data behind a lot of this and then what we think we can do with that. Jesse Mintz-Ross is our Vision Zero program manager, is going to give a presentation, and we also have Sergeant Palmer from the police department that will also participate in this presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Jesse, and then we can get the presentation done and then be ready for questions. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, John, and thank you to the chair and to the committee. My name is Jesse Minceroth, and I'm the Vision Zero program manager at the Department of Transportation. And as John said, I'm joined by Sergeant Justin Palmer from the police department, and also Lamb Cruz, who just presented the last presentation, will also help during Q&A. So a bit of a, well, actually, I just want to start with the picture on this slide, which is one of the recently built quick build projects that is part of the Vision Zero program. This is on Story Road at McInnes, and it is in the West Crosswalk, and it shows an example of some of the street redesign work that we're doing by showing the new yellow thing, which with the standing vertical delineators are create an area that has more refuge for pedestrians crossing the street. And also you can see that it slows turns for vehicles who are making the conflicting left turn here. So as I begin talking about, sorry about that, we're gonna unblur that, about the data piece, I just wanna give the disclaimer that of course, when we talk about Vision Zero, we're often talking about traffic fatalities and injuries. That is generally what I'm presenting here about. And you know, these are numbers, but they're also our neighbors. So in a sense, I feel badly that they can seem a little, they can seem quite abstracted in graphs, but they are still friends and neighbors here in San Jose. So to talk about the traffic fatalities in 2021 and the beginning of 2022, on the left side of the screen, we have San Jose's last 10 years of traffic fatality data. And you can see that in 2021, we had the same high peak of 60 traffic fatalities that we had in 2019 and also 2015. Looking at 2021 itself, on the right, cumulative fatalities by month is the light blue line. And as John was just saying in the introduction, in 2021, as we began the year, following on 2020, which was a lower number compared to 2019 or 2021, we were on the low side of the range of the last 5 recent years of data, which are shown in gray, 2016 to 2020. But then when we got to June, the 2021 line began to go above and really quite far above the recent 5-year range. And what happened in June 2021 was the reopening of the economy in California after, I guess, the first part of the pandemic there. And so, you know, we had the same level of alarm that I think many of you have in the audience today, seeing the 2021 line go above and just begin hearing about way more fatalities than we would be anticipating, particularly at each of these times of year. In 2021, though, at the end of the year, the blue line for 2021 went into the range of the last 5 recent years. And that's because in November and December, we tend to see more traffic fatalities due to daylight savings time, which means that commute times are occurring in darkness suddenly at that time of year. So in 2021, we ended in range at the top of the range. But then that same trend that had begun in 2021 continued into 2022. And so in the beginning of 2022, shown in this yellow line, we are way above where we typically are at the beginning of the year. So this data shows up to March 2nd, but actually today we just heard that there are 2 delayed fatalities that are not shown in this graph. So in 2022, as of what we know right now, we're up to 20 traffic fatalities, which is far above what we typically see in the beginning of the year. Looking at injury crashes by month, on the left, we have cumulative injuries by month, and on the right, cumulative fatal and severe injuries, which is what KSI stands for. One thing that we learned late in 2021 is that the city auditor had found that the Department of Transportation and the police department were reporting different numbers. And we worked with the police department to reconcile that and find out that some of the incidents were not being automatically sent to the DOT. And so we now have isolated all of those cases, but they are not entered into the DOT database in time to give this presentation. So we anticipate that for July to December 2021, that the yellow line should be about 10% higher in the second half of the year. But we will have those in soon, just not yet. So on the left, for cumulative injuries by month, effectively in 2021, the number of injuries is very much within the typical range. But then on the right, the fatal and severe injuries is again similar to traffic fatalities, high. And so basically the injuries are tending more severe than in typical years. Looking at traffic fatalities by street user type, people who are killed while walking are still the biggest group every year now in the last 5 years, beginning in 2017. And that fact may be a little surprising to people, just reflecting that walking is not the very highly used mode of transportation here in San Jose. Motor vehicle occupants, though, that's much more common mode choice, and they are the second largest group of traffic fatalities. And then in 2021, one thing that we saw that's really interesting is the growth in motorcyclist fatalities. And that may speak to something that we're understanding more as we read more national news stories, which is seemingly a growth in recreational driving. And so that is a little bit of speculation on my part, but also we understand that there, from reading some recent national news stories, that there's been an observation of more young and more male people have driven more during the pandemic compared to the majority of the population, which drove less. If you look at traffic fatality trends in 2021, I've already mentioned that people killed while walking were the biggest group at 23 traffic fatalities. So at total, we have 60 traffic fatalities that occurred as part of 58 crashes. Every year we look to see where we map them and see where they cluster. And the priority safety corridors are the streets in the Vision Zero action plan that are the center of our street redesign strategy. And so every year we tend to see 30 to 40% of fatal and severe injuries cluster on those roads. They are 70 street miles in San Jose on 17 corridors. 2 of them are in the county's jurisdiction, and 15 of them, or 56 lane miles, or rather center line miles, are in the city's jurisdiction. This year, in 2021, rather, 48% of the fatalities occurred on the priority safety corridors, which is higher than usual. And that in itself just helps show that the strategy to focus on those roadways is the right strategy. That's where they keep happening even more. Among the priority safety corridors, the one that had the most fatalities in 2021 is Monterey Road, with 7 fatalities. One thing that we noticed there and elsewhere is a growth in traffic fatalities involving pedestrians who are unhoused. And so in 2021, that was 18 traffic fatalities, or 30%. Another thing that we've noticed is that a lot of them occur when it's dark out. And so that is 42 of the fatalities, or 70%. I already mentioned the growth in motorcyclist fatalities. And among the 23 people killed while walking, another thing that we've noticed is that a large percent of them, 70%, occur outside crosswalks. And outside crosswalks itself is a diverse group. Some of them are close to marked crosswalks, and some of them are quite far, because there are a lot of locations in San Jose that are quite far from a marked crosswalk. So another thing that we wanted to mention is the male driver. 73% of these traffic fatalities occurred with a male driver. And part of the reason that we're interested in that is that right now the city is beginning to work with a marketer that works on behavioral change topics. And so we will be working with them this year to do safety messaging campaigns, and part of that is knowing who to direct those campaigns to. And so this type of intel about who's driving the cars involved in traffic fatalities is part of the work that they do and we do with them to make sure that the message goes to the right audience. And then lastly, the top factor leading to fatal or severe injury in San Jose is speeding. And so that is also 30% of fatalities in 2021. This graph looking at traffic fatalities, looking at specifically the posted speed limit where they occurred. So 88% of them occur on roadways that have a posted speed limit of 35 miles per hour or faster. And this graph, this chart, and this point sort of relates back to the previous presentation that Lam gave about AB 43. So the streets that we were evaluating for AB 43 are the other part of this pie, the 12%. But as Lam mentioned, there are provisions in AB 43 for streets like our priority safety corridors that will be figured out between now and 2024, which should allow us to reduce speeds on these corridors that have 35 mile an hour posted or faster. So that's, basically we're quite interested on these, on the priority safety corridors that have 35 mile an hour posted or faster. And as I mentioned, 18 of the 60 fatalities are due to speeding, and also just that it's our top known factor. But if you'd like to see that pie chart in the context of the last 5 years of data, the 23 people who are killed while walking are shown in the yellow line, so the 23 for 2021. And if you, that's the total number of people killed while walking in 2021 in the yellow line, but then if you look at the brownish line below it, then that's 20 of them are on roadways that have a posted 35 mile an hour or faster. And then if you look at the blue set of lines, there's 60 traffic fatalities in 2021, and 53 of them are on a roadway with a posted speed limit of 35 or more. So you can see in 2021 that those two lines in both of these cases are really close to each other. And some other years have also been really close to each other, particularly for pedestrians in 2017. So this is definitely an interest area for us as we do analyses into the data to try and basically get useful insights that we can action based on the data. And so there's this slide that we have looking at the traffic fatalities that have occurred so far in 2022. And without reading it line by line, I just want to generalize that the yellow lines are people killed while walking. The orange lines are people killed while cycling. The blue are motor vehicle occupants, and gray are motorcyclists. And of the fatalities so far this year, the one that's generated the most press is the double pedestrian fatality that occurred on Almaden Expressway near Foxworthy. And then there was also another fatality involving a cyclist that occurred at that same intersection. So in 2022, that intersection is the one that has had the most traffic fatalities. And so looking at the 2022 data, and this is my last slide, we have 50% of them on priority safety corridors. The intersection I just mentioned, Almaden Expressway and Foxworthy, has 3 fatalities in 2022. And as was mentioned during the last presentation, this intersection is in the jurisdiction of the county. And so we are working with them, particularly since that happened. And we can get into that more during Q&A. 4 of them occurred on White Road, although I'll add that another of the delayed fatals that we just heard about since doing these slides was also on White Road. 83% of them during dark hours, 56% of them involve people walking, and 9 of the 10, so 90%, are outside of crosswalks. 6 with speeding as a factor, and 6 as were hit and runs. And so that is the end of my presentation.
Jesse. We'll go to members of the public first for public comment.
Okay, good. Thank you
Trustee
very
Williamson?
much. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I was talking to my husband, Cat Woodman C, climatologist and biologist and engineer, about how we need to change our roads. And he had some very, very good suggestions in that if we have a vision zero, we must engineer the roads to be vision zero. It's the same thing with our climate crisis. We're saying we're going to be carbon neutral. What does he call it? The decision-making tree. And the decision-making tree that he's proposing that we have on our roads is that any road that has 2 lanes in the same direction, 1 lane becomes a bicycle lane. And it's not, and the way we get vision zero is we put a concrete barrier between the cars and the bicyclists. And on top of that, we give it a door zone. We stripe for the door zone so that when those cars open up their doors, they don't hit the bicyclists and have an accident. And so we need to engineer our roads for vision zero. And that's what we're talking about. So when you have 2 lanes going in the same direction, one of those lanes becomes a bicycle lane. And as I designed it, where it is separated from the traffic, because the car drivers have shown themselves to be irresponsible. We know that. We see it in the reports that show 40,000 dead every year in the US and 3 million injured every year. So they have showed themselves to be irresponsible. We must engineer our roads for safety. And when we do that, we have to make decisions about where's the money to make all this concrete. And, concrete produces a lot of CO2, gas emissions, greenhouse gas. So that's where we have to cut. The measure B has to be all about creating safe walking for bicyclists and pedestrians, not about 13 highway extensions and all the other things that are Measure B. Even the tunnel that is being built for BART has to stop. We must put all of our engineering into and fossil fuels into making it safe for bicyclists and pedestrians, or we will not have a future. Delay is death.
Caller ending in 4379.
Hi. So I just wanted to talk about the presentation. Mr. Russo mentioned the trend of high deaths started last year. And while that may be true, it's important to note that 60 deaths happened in 2015 too, which tied a 20 or 25-year high of deaths. So it's not a new problem. It didn't just start last year. And the 5-year average of deaths between 2010 and 2015 was 35. And now we're at 60 plus, on a record pace this year. It's not a new problem. It's been around since 2015 when the city pledged Vision Zero, and we're going backwards. I want to talk specifically about Quimby Road, which has a problematic 40-mile-per-hour speed limit. As we know, that's kind of the area where things become very dangerous. And the Better Bike Plan is designated as a protected bike lane. And recently in talking to staff, they stated that Quimby Road has too high of a traffic volume to reduce lanes. And Quimby Road currently has no bike lane in either direction. And it's an important connector to the Eastridge Transit Center, the new Arcadia ballparks, the future light rail stop, the mall, etc. And so there's not even room for bike lanes currently. They won't reduce lanes because, the car-centric viewpoint that there's too high of traffic volume. So once again, we're favoring cars, even though our bike plan designates that as a protected bike lane. And so now it's probably just going to end up having a narrow bike lane with maybe some flex posts. It just doesn't jive with that great bike plan that the consultant and staff prepared. And it's disappointing because we're talking about Vision Zero here, and yet we're still making decisions with the cars as being the highest priority. It's disappointing.
Edgar Ariano.
Yeah, thank you. Edgar Ariano here again. Just kind of curious what actions are being done to address the 70% or even 90% of pedestrians being outside of the crosswalk. It's odd that specific data point is emphasized as like a higher percentage. If you think about it, all these, fatalities are a cause of vehicle violence or traffic violence due to a vehicle. So yeah, it's just odd that that's the bigger number out of all the other ones. That being said, though, and I'm sorry, I had the presentation open and I was hoping to reference it. Either way, though, I think there should be some more analysis done on these numbers as well. It seems like there's mail and after hours or in the dark trends happening. So I don't know if there's probably a workforce program or more opportunities that occupy these folks as opposed to having, speeding happen on our roads. There's probably other fixes other than just engineering, enforcement, and even the educational piece. We should look at this more holistically and look at what those numbers are saying. Again, there's a clear trend there that maybe after business is over, the streets are rather empty and are more easy to speed on. And so I think if there's more job opportunities or a way to collaborate with the business partners in the area to provide those opportunities, so there's less speeders and more people actually in workplaces. Thank you for your time.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for this item. The fact that there's been so many deaths in the beginning of this year, traffic fatalities with pedestrian, I don't want to argue with that. I want to really respect that a lot. But at the same time, as I've been always trying to say for the past few years, we are developing a different way to talk about statistics, about Vision Zero KSI statistics than we have in the past. And we're learning to count homeless people who are now being killed by vehicles. We didn't do that in the past. These are ideas of equity. They're really important and good. Those are going to bring up the numbers of death a lot. And we're going to talk about our homeless victims a lot more now. So good for that. And good that we're noticing these things, but it has to be within a perspective, I think, of considering how we used to count KSI statistics. So the number 60 is not so large when they actually were 60 in the past, but we just weren't counting them all because they were homeless people and they're icky. But now we are. So, good luck how we can do that and not inflate the numbers. This is a really, really important argument we're having within San Jose city government. We got to do this honestly, and we got to do it decently, openly, and accountably. We got to be accountable with each other. We all want funding, correct, but we got to do it in decent terms. Good luck how you can organize yourselves with the future of these programs and statistical data collecting with things like using the mayor's gang prevention task force ideas. And as always, the accountability and openness with data and technology practices can really help out this process a lot, really help to organize how we can all move forward in the future with these sort of projects. Thank you.
Jill Borders.
Thank you. Every single one of these pedestrian fatalities is a tragedy. And I feel like the comments that I want to say, I want to preface with that, because a lot of what I've been hearing is, why are we mentioning male driver? Why are we mentioning, outside of crosswalks and all of this? And it gets into that concept of, being so cautious not to blame the victim or ask about responsibility that we don't drill down into the data. And so I'm going to have probably a lot of people that think I'm out of line here, but I think it's important. I do want to know why out of the crosswalk deaths are happening at a higher rate. Have we become a society that is lacking in sort of basic responsibility? When I was raising my daughter, we did not ever, under any circumstances, ever, literally, that was the lesson we got taught, cross the street. If it was easier, if it was closer, if the city is built around cars, I don't care. We're walking all the way down to the crosswalk, crossing, and we will walk all the way back to that store if that's where we need to go. And so I guess my point is this, is I want to know what population outside of those crosswalks are we dealing with in terms of that decision-making capability? for example, we didn't break that down into male or female, but are there more males that are crossing after hours late at night? Someone mentioned after working or something. That's a possibility. But I don't want to be afraid of the data. I want to know who it is. I want to know who it is, why they are crossing, why it's a challenge to either wear light clothing at night, to go to a crosswalk, because I am a very responsible driver and I drive very slow, especially at night. I pretend like it's raining everywhere I go, and I have almost hit people that are just jumping out. So that is something I just want to talk about.
Gabby Mendoza.
Hi, yeah. So apparently everybody spoke. Thank you for all the speakers that spoke before me. Everybody asked kind of my questions. I wanted to know too. And also too, with the bill 43, the one that it was before, I was gonna say here's all the information, but this is the San Jose vision. It's pretty cool, but let's use these numbers to really evaluate, of the progress we're doing with the quality, with the Mr. Blair said about the quality, and thank you for calling them unhoused people over here in the project, because I don't think the homeless, I think the unhoused, that's a difference between those two words, and to me they're unhoused because they have a home and the heart. But thank you for including them because they're part of society like everybody else. And thank you for all the data. It's very interesting, and I'm learning a lot. And please do something about the Tally Road, and also to the McLaughlin from Capitol to Tally and McLaughlin. That's 40 miles an hour. I think we don't need that. I think we can lower that. And I hope we can do something about it. And I think I like the San Jose vision. And this one, I agree with you guys. You guys do a good job there. Thank you.
Avery.
Hi, it was great that you have all that information, but maybe on the point of somebody else who spoke before me, maybe one other piece of information is how far these deaths that were out of the crosswalk were from crosswalks. That might be just one more piece of information that might be possible to achieve and report and maybe have some insight. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you very much, and appreciate, first off, Chair, you having moved this important item up from May, especially considering all that happened this past year. And then, unfortunately, as we see just in the first few weeks and now months of this year, really dramatic and alarming statistics that we have. And so I want to thank the staff as well for bringing this forward sooner than had originally planned, and my as well my Vision Zero Task Force members, including Vice Chair Pam Foley, for all the collaboration over the past year and a half. This task force formed because of our recognition of where we have gone, quite frankly, as one of the speakers noted, since we began this effort of Vision Zero, and really tragically where we've seen the numbers of individuals killed or severely injured go since then. And our effort is to try and reverse that trend. And unfortunately, we're not seeing, we're putting in more effort, but we're not seeing the results at the moment. We're seeing, once again, the opposite. And so I think it really is going to necessitate a much deeper dive and even further resources to try and really reverse this trend. As chair of the task force, I have been pleased certainly to see some of the strides that we've made since the adoption of our action plan in 2019. But it's been heartbreaking to have seen once again one of the deadliest years on record last year in 2021, and then this year with so many fatalities, to a point where we're averaging one a week. I also know that we've had a tough 2 years with COVID, and with it we've learned a lot about the the changes of behavior on our streets. And however, it feels that not much has changed in terms of KSIs. And I do think it would be appropriate to evaluate within our Vision Zero program what is working and what is not, and how we can improve. My memo outlines a few of those steps, and the first is agendizing this discussion to our full city council, being this that we're seeing fatalities occur in all parts of our city, and really with the severity of it, I think it warrants that level of urgency and deliberation with the full council. And I wanted to initially ask staff just for your response on the recommendations listed in my memo.
Hey, Councilmember John Rissa, Director of Transportation again. And yes, actually, we've taken a real close look at that. And I believe we can support all of those. It really is contingent on further actions. It is a resource requirements that really are going to need us to be able, or that we will need in order to really do all of those things on there. And I think you knew that as you wrote that. But yes, we can support all that. There will necessarily be some further actions on council, though.
Great, thank you. I appreciate the response there. You know, I have also had the opportunity of serving now 7 and going on my 8th year of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, and you know, although it's been in existence for 30 plus years, or just about 30 years. It hasn't completely eliminated, you know, gang violence or youth violence, and but it's done a tremendous job within that task force in really curving and capping that violence. And but it's taken significant resources and significant collaboration and consistent collaboration and resources as well. And with where I see our traffic-related fatalities and injuries, severe injuries going, I think we're going to need ultimately that level of resource and effort and consistency. You know, we have this Vision Zero task force today, which is, you know, was never really intended to be permanent or long term. But I do think that when you look at the numbers, we are averaging twice as many traffic-related fatalities as we do homicides, and many more than gang-related homicides. And again, we have now a process, a long time process, where we're able to invest in time and resources to address gang violence. And I think we're going to need to mimic that and really do something similar when it comes to if we're going to try to lower these numbers and really get down to zero. I want to thank as well Walk San Jose for submitting their comments. And I know my staff was working to sync up with them last week. We did just get their response today, and I haven't had a chance to fully vet them. Even myself did get a chance to read over them, but I'm happy to include in my motion that both, well, for one, I'll direct my staff to help reach out to them, but to ensure that we can consider those for deliberation and ask staff to do so before we come to the full council. And I do want to close and say that my heart goes out to all the family members who have lost a loved one on our streets. And I'm cognizant that when we talk about those who have perished on our streets, that they're more than a data point. Their life taken too soon. And so we will and we must do better. And we do recognize that at the beginning of every Vision Zero task force meeting, and just wanted to highlight that here. And with that said, I would like to move my memo with the addition that we do review and consider Walk San Jose suggestions prior to the council discussion.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Perales. Councilmember Esparza.
Thank you. I I also wanted to just add my voice that this is a really heartbreaking topic, and with real people and real families that are impacted by the numbers that are reflected in the presentations. I actually wanted to just have a couple of comments. Number one, I still strongly believe that our unhoused outreach teams must be a part of this work, and that we must coordinate with housing to do that. If you look at the locations, there are some encampments near there, and if you look at the hours, there are very real risks that are being taken, and we just need additional outreach. The other thing that I wanted to do is actually send a big thank you to our DOT department. The barriers on Monterey and Kirtner have gone up, and the build outs have been completed, and it looks great. I've gotten some positive feedback so far. It's brand new, and I know that this is a pilot. So I look forward to seeing how, hopefully that can decrease the numbers of fatalities along Monterey and Kirtner. But I just wanted to say a big thank you to the team. I know they worked really hard on it. And hopefully we can add that to our toolbox. And actually, the last thing I wanted to just say is we're going to need a lot of things in our toolbox. For example, Kirtner Monterey might be different from Gaia Willow, which will probably be a different approach to Almaden and Foxworthy. I know that little turnoff quite well. You have people turning off on high speeds, and imagine doing that at night and then not seeing, someone in a crosswalk or they weren't in the crosswalk, right? And it can be dark at night. And so that might require a different type of barrier. So hopefully we can have quite a collection of tools in our toolbox, and I look forward to having this discussion at council. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Esparza. I have one question about the quick builds. I think, were all the quick builds done on priority safety corridors?
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I believe that we have some that are not on priority safety corridors, but the sort of focus of the team that was created to do them on arterials is on priority safety corridors. So
most of them are.
Most of them are.
Great. So do we have before and after data of the quick builds that we're tracking on whether or not we're actually being successful with the quick builds, whether it's with fatalities? I know I hesitate to say this, and I am cognizant and sensitive to the fact that we're talking about data here, but there are more injuries than there are fatalities, and so it may be easier to track or quicker at least to track the injuries as opposed to fatalities when we're looking at quick builds. Are they successful? And what's our method of determining whether or not they are? How long do we give it?
It's a great question. So we are creating the ability to, or I guess the capacity to do this is currently a little bit limited because we haven't done it much in the past. And at the moment, we're talking to consultants about studying our most recent corridor project to do an evaluation. But as we move forward, we want to do it a lot more. So I think we need to go from sort of this maybe 1 or 2 evaluations that we're doing now to a sort of more of a strategy is probably the way to put it. But sort of the base of so I think that your question is great. one of the sort of underlying points in response is just that typically you have to wait about a year of after data in order for there to be enough after data to compare to the before data. But then once there is that after data, you know, the question is like, how do you get it? How do you put it together? What types of data are there? So in the way that we've approached consultants to do a potential report about this, you know, we're asking them to propose and put together with us that strategy for what the types are. So for example, crash data, that's a data type that you want to have about a year of after data for. But, you know, if you are very organized about the strategy going forward, you collect your before data, you collect your after data for volumes, for, you know, speeds, let's say. Ideally, we'll go down that path and put together that type of strategy and do all of that in a very consistent way. At the moment, we're just sort of putting together the program of studying these projects. So at the moment, I would say we're planning to do a study like I've described for Center Road, but we don't yet have this analysis pieced together for every project.
Okay, so the consultant is going to be doing it for Center Road, but are they going to help us set up this system of data collection that you were referring to, Jesse? Because it seems, honestly, it seems really like a waste of money to just have one study on one corridor when we would be a lot. I mean, of course, I go straight to regression and looking at statistically different types of quick builds and what their relative success might be. But if we're just looking at one corridor, it would be beneficial to have that one corridor for the consultant to look at the one corridor, but then to give us recommendations for how we should be looking at all of our corridors as we're doing these quick build projects. And they don't even need to necessarily be quick build projects, right? Because
Yes.
we're doing a lot of re-engineering of and reconfiguring of streets while we're doing repaving as well. So I would hope that they would be giving us a framework going forward that we could use for all of our streets.
So I'd like to add a little bit to what Jesse said. We did hire one FTE to help us develop the program. We're working with a consultant to evaluate a few streets, including McLaughlin as well as Center. And McLaughlin was more of a capital project rather than a quick build project because we'd like to know, you know, how the improvements worked on the street. Just like Jesse mentioned, we do need a little bit time to evaluate the crash data, but there are other pieces such as the speeds, as well as, you know, surveying the community to see how they feel. Just like Center, we did get a lot of feedback, as you know, many of you may have heard at the task force in recent T&E meetings where, although, you know, we don't have the crash data to look at the post-evaluation, we are hearing from the community that it does feel safer when they drive out there and when they walk and when they bike out there. So that piece of data is also just as important to us, is getting immediate feedback from the residents.
Thank you. That's helpful. So the one FTE that you were referencing, Lamb, is going to be looking at all of our corridors.
They're developing, you know, because there's different type of data that we'd like to collect. Each corridor location is different, and we'll be working with a consultant to see, you know, which piece of data is important for us to determine the effectiveness of either the location or the corridor, and it varies. But yeah, we would like to evaluate a handful of them. Would we be able to evaluate every single one? You know, that might be cost prohibitive, but we will do, you know, ones especially on the Vision Zero corridors.
So I agree that it would be cost prohibitive if we're talking about a one size fits one approach that you're talking about, where the data that's being collected is individual to each of the individual corridors. But I'm talking about something much more, much broader, where we're actually trying to look at all of our projects and collecting a similar set of metrics so that we can say, are we actually, I mean, honestly, when I start with a research project, or when I should probably use past tense at this point, since I'm 6 years on the council and haven't been doing research projects. When you start with a research project, or when I did, you start first with, what is the question that we want to answer, or a set of questions that we want to answer? And really with these quick build projects, yes, I understand and I agree that do people feel safer immediately is one of the questions, but the real question that we want to answer is, are people actually safer? So I don't, and we have very specific outcomes that are, you know, the pre and the post are pretty simple when we're talking about, were there fewer injuries, were there fewer severe injuries, were there fewer fatalities, and then maybe a score for, you know, overall, where you know, a fatality is obviously more serious than a smaller injury, right? And so you'd want to look at those, but I guess I don't understand why the data collection would be or should be different in the different corridors, regardless of the fact that the quick build solution may be different. We really want to know the same thing across all of those.
So I would say it's at this point sort of an issue of scaling up this practice of creating this capacity to do these studies. In my previous work in a different city, we had a whole lot of people working on this. And here we have, well, we have one FTE, that FTE also works on other things. And also that FTE is new. So, you know, going from where we are now to where other cities have like quite a large practice in this area, I think it's sort of a choice really about, you know, investment, but also just how to scale it up to one of those bigger strategies. There are a lot of data tools out there that could help us do that, but also, you know, coming from the place we're at to the place other cities are, it's all the same sort of thing about, you know, how we sort of have the FTE within DOT work on it, and also, for example, data products that we could be subscribing to but are not currently, are also a lot more money that we're not currently spending on that type of thing. So I guess that's how I would look at it in terms of whether or not, like, do we know what the program looks like in other cities that do a lot of this? Yes. So we have been looking into that as well.
And also another piece, and sorry, let me clarify when I meant that we would only look at some, I meant in a more comprehensive way, but we do have a data analytics tool where we are able to run crashes before the project and crashes after. So we are in the process of developing that tool, and that is an important aspect for us to look at for the projects in terms of crashes.
Right, thank you. I appreciate that, because I don't want to be, as much as I have a research bent, I do understand that the costs have to be smaller than the benefits, right? We have to really understand why we're doing it, and not just do analysis for the sake of analysis. But I just think if we're doing a bunch of different kinds of quick builds, and the reason we're doing them is because they're quick and they're cheap, right? But we also want them to be effective, because if they're not effective, they're quick and they're cheap, but really they're expensive because they're unnecessary or they're the wrong thing. So I'm just trying to get a sense of, are we doing these with an eye to, we want to make sure we understand what the best solutions are, where we get the most bang for our buck, where we improve safety the most for every dollar that we're spending. And again, I am sensitive to the fact that we're talking about people, and we're talking not just numbers, but the numbers do tell us a really important story and do help us determine how we can keep the most number of people the safest on the most number of corridors. And so I understand that we always have a resource challenge. And so I just really want to challenge you to be as critical as possible in analyzing how can we determine how we're spending our money to get the biggest bang for our buck when we're trying to improve safety. I just can't emphasize enough how disturbing the news has been almost every day when I open the paper and we have another fatality. And I know that, I know, Jesse, you were saying the injuries are getting more severe. So it's not across the board. We're not seeing more injuries and more severe injuries and more fatalities. We're seeing fewer, less serious injuries. That's even more concerning to me. Because we're talking about a greater cost to the families who are losing people on our streets because of these crashes. So I want us to be able to use data as efficiently as possible to be able to help us solve this problem.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And with the development of this data analytics tool, we're expecting to be able to run just kind of what you mentioned. Additionally, I do want to mention that we do look at Caltrans and also Federal Highway Administration's data as well to help us identify improvements, because they do give us these crash reduction factors that we take into account. But additionally, each site is different, and being able to use this tool to see what we actually did is also just as important.
Thank you. All right. Do any of my colleagues have any other questions or comments? Oh, hi, Colleen.
I just wanted to, I know there's a motion pending and it includes a Walk San Jose memo. It might be helpful to have a date of that memo. It wasn't posted with the agenda, so just to clarify the direction moving forward.
Councilmember Perales, it's not in the public record for this item. I think it just came to our emails. So if you have the date that came in. And I think
the response letter from San Jose Walks?
Yes.
Today. And we can, I'll ask my team to forward that over to the clerk's office to make sure that it makes it into the public record.
Great, thank you. All right, will the clerk call the roll on this motion, please?
Esparza?
Yes.
Perales?
Yes.
Foley?
Aye.
Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that motion carries. So we'll go back to item number 1 in section D of our agenda, and that is revisions to the City of San Jose's water efficient landscape ordinance. Jeff? Are you there, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm here. One second.
Somebody keeps muting Jeff.
There we go.
All right. We can hear you now.
Great. Thank you. Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm sorry. Jeff Provenzano, Deputy Director, Environmental Services Department for the Water Resources Division. We have a new item for you today. It's been a while since we've been back in front of council or this committee to talk about it. It's our water efficient landscape ordinance, particularly some proposed amendments that we'd like to bring forward to council in a couple weeks.
Hey, Jeff, just for visibility, can you go into notes or presentation mode? Oh, never mind. Looks like you're about to.
Quick background, California first enacted model water efficient landscape ordinance in 1993. Our city, San Jose, adopted our first version of this in 1994 with 2 amendments in the past 20 years. Then the main point of the water efficient landscape ordinance per the state is to save water through efficient landscape design, installation, and maintenance. When looking at possible amendments to this, there were 3 main drivers that were kind of spurring us forward. The first one kind of relates to the graph on the left there as representation. Right now, we're currently in either an extreme or exceptional drought. This is how we ended last calendar year. Did not really get the water or snow that we were anticipating that we'd get this year. So most likely we'll be continue to be in an extreme or exceptional drought through the rest of the calendar year, if not next year. In addition to that, this short-term drought, the way things are looking now is that we'll continue to have declining snowpack, declining reliable water supplies, really will force us to adapt to climate change and strengthen our climate change resiliency. And one of the ways we can do that, of course, is to reduce our reliance on imported water supplies and decrease our water usage overall. Another driver for us was council directed us to come back with changes to WELO that would require only planting of drought-tolerant landscapes and new developments. But along with that were two other parameters that we really used in our evaluation of possible amendments. And those were to not impede our efforts to green areas of San Jose that have historically seen underinvestment, and also to support reductions of tree plantings and tree canopy and landscape plantings to reduce urban heat island effect. And of course, the third driver for us, we have our own climate smart San Jose goals, and the two there that in looking at amendments that we wanted to help support were to reduce water usage overall throughout the city, but also to reduce household energy usage, primarily by reducing the impacts of urban heat island effect. And of course, in everything that we do, we're always looking at what possible benefits any of these changes could have to residents and community. And we listed a few here: drought resiliency, carbon sequestration, which I'll talk about in a bit, reduced urban heat island effects, obviously, is a big one for us, and cost savings. Cost savings primarily in the form of water bills. This slide here, it's a little bit detailed, but there's just one point I wanted to call your attention to. Really on the two columns to the right on the top. One is a turf grass, a Kentucky bluegrass. This is the typical type of grass you'd see in a front yard here in the San Jose area. And the one below it is a little less common, but it's called Bermuda grass. It's typically referred to as a low water usage grass. But when we compare those to native California landscape, both trees, ground cover, and shrubs, you can see that both types of grass use significantly more water per square footage than native non-invasive species. And there's a lot of information on this slide, so I just want to bring your attention to a few points. That first number there, that is the gallons of water that is needed to water grass on an 800 square foot lawn in a typical front yard in San Jose. Typically about 38,000 gallons of water annually is needed to water that turf or that grass. If that were to be converted to low water usage, that's about 76,000 gallons annually of water usage. And if that same area would be converted to a low water usage, down to about 4,000 gallons. So a significant reduction, up to a 90% reduction in outside watering, just by going from high water using turf down to native landscape. This slide here, one of the factors that we looked at for this was native plants, but I want to kind of broaden that topic a little bit and kind of think about how to explain this to you. Really what it comes down to is soil health and native plants. More in that the soil and the plants together create a particular ecosystem. And it's really the goal for us that we want to focus on to achieve that ecosystem by planting native plants is to support soil health. And the reason why is soil health is a factor of three things. It's water in the ground, it's nutrients, and it's air. And you get those three combined with the right type of plants, native landscape, the root structure together with the plants and the moisture in the water creates a biodiverse ecosystem of bacteria, microorganisms. You see a little circle there with little squiggly lines. So there's a whole biome that exists in the soil. And this is important for us because the healthier that soil is, the more moisture it retains. And the healthier it is, the more it pulls carbon. It's called carbon sequestering. The more carbon is pulled out of the atmosphere and stored in a stable form in that soil. And some research has shown that the higher levels of carbon sequestration and pulling that carbon in can last in the soil for decades, if not centuries. So when we were looking at possible amendments, recommendations to council on what could be a good strategy forward, we really focused back on these native plants because of their role in supporting that soil health and helping achieve carbon sequestration. One of the other factors we also looked at was urban heatland effect, of course. To reduce hardscape was one way that we have looked at of achieving that. Another is to focus on, again, planting native trees and ground cover and promoting urban tree canopy. That little graphic there on the right-hand side, that kind of goes along with the previous discussion I just had on the health of the soil. When you have healthy soil, the surface tends to absorb less heat. The more moisture and cover you have, it absorbs less heat. Therefore, you have greater water retention in the soil itself, but also greater cooling effects, both through evaporation and plant transpiration. We also considered changes to irrigation design. The three common ones there, I'm sure you're familiar with: spray irrigation, drip irrigation, and bubblers. So we looked at how we could possibly change some rules around those to support our goals. And I know you're on the edge of your seat here, so these are the key amendments that we came up with. The current, and again, WELO has been in our municipal code going back almost 20 years. We do have it in there now. So what we're looking at are amendments. The top one there is on eligibility or applicability. Right now, new construction with landscape areas greater than 500 square feet have to follow this municipal code section. We're revising that to say all new construction. We're also going so far as to recommend that we prohibit high water using plants. If we go back to the slides that we kind of showed on turf and grass, on how much water they use compared to native landscape. So we want to prohibit high water using plants and encourage the planting of native species. We're also recommending to prohibit turf except in designated recreation areas. So turf is allowed, but not for aesthetic purposes. It'd really be in areas that are going to be actively used for recreation. And in hardscape, our current municipal code has no limitations on hardscape. So one of our recommendations is to allow no more than 50% of the available landscape area can be converted to hardscape. And finally, irrigation, that was the last one we talked about. We're recommending that drip or bubbler systems are used except where turf is permitted. So no spray irrigation, except in areas where there's turf. And with that, concludes our presentation. On this slide, you'll see a few of the stakeholder engagement groups that we met with over the past couple months to kind of get their feedback and buy-in on our recommended amendments. And with that, we're available for questions.
We'll go to the public first.
Tessa Wood Nancy.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, great. I just wanted to read what my husband, this climate scientist, biologist, futurist, is saying. Because climate change is real, therefore we must leave fossil fuels in the ground. Therefore, most people will not be able to drive. You can replace this word drive. He was referring originally to what was about the transportation issues, but you can replace drive with provide food for themselves, provide water, provide energy. There's a lot of things at threat right now. And then he says, therefore, most people will not be able to drive, eat the food, feed themselves, that type of thing. Therefore, more people will be in bicycles. More people will need to stay home to grow food, including children. Therefore, we must have safe engineered controls. And because we are deliberately excluding political and economic considerations, our only driving consideration is public safety. So what he was referring to, of course, is, like I said, how our roads, we need to put I've been saying all of Measure B monies that are being put into highways and into BART need to be put into making our roads safe. Because what Kat is saying is that all of us are going to have to stop driving. And therefore, we need to make it very safe for even including children. That's safe. What they really say safety is that somebody from children to 80 is going to be okay. And it's the same issue in terms of food security. We have food security issues. We have to be focusing on that in terms of our agriculture. So that's how I'm relating it to this topic. but it was really in regards to, we accept that climate change is real. Fossil fuels must be kept in the ground. We must change, and we must engineer the change and stop thinking about politics and economics. Only think about public safety.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for the words of Tessa. For myself, just a few comments on this item. It sounds kind of interesting that you want to work with the idea of natural plants for our future. Most of the plants that you look at up in the hills and the weeds that grow in the summertime and turn green in the winter, those are plants and weeds that have come around since the Spanish came in the 1700s or earlier, I guess. So we have a new set of plants, and so you're addressing native plant issues. So thank you for that. I wanted to hopefully remind that as we're trying to find important, good new ways of landscaping, they were kind of stepping on the toes of different people from different neighborhoods and different communities of San Jose. And that was a few years ago. I think we're really trying to work on that issue. And it's just a matter of communication within each neighborhood and the people of each neighborhood to find out, what sort of new plants can be built for, or can be planted for our future, growth and our future, understanding of, water drainage and all that good stuff. So good luck how you talk with individuals and people of local neighborhoods with these sort of projects. It's really important. I think we're learning better how to do that. And I will definitely try to use the word unhoused in the future. I really should learn to do that more. Thank you for your time.
Call-in user number 1.
Hey, is this the same city that plants the worst trees, or I should say make you plant the worst tree for these shaded growth areas? It's all nice, fine and dandy, but I mean, the trees that we have to choose from are not native to here. They're not very good. They uproot the sidewalks. They drop a lot of things that you don't want. So if you're going to lecture people on what landscaping should be, I really have to say you guys are in no position to do so. Can you fix the roads first, pave them, fix the potholes, maybe make sure that all the sprinklers at all the parks and around City Hall are all working better than, going off at 3 o'clock in the morning with, one broken sprinkler head spraying water everywhere. It's all, it's all these city owned areas where you have the most water waste you could ever imagine. So for you to lecture the public, for the city council to do so, I find it a bit ridiculous that you guys can pick and choose the right plants. Really, you guys are going to do that? I don't think so. You guys are wrong on almost every decision that you make, and this is definitely one of them. I mean, you can give advice of what could be good, but you guys are going to have mandates. You guys love mandates and fees and fines and permits and all these things. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. You can't even manage your city hall. Look at that city hall. Look at the Death Star with a waste of water going on there too. Look at your downtown. You guys are going to dictate plants. Just look at your downtown. You're going to need a lot of water to scrub off all the urine and feces and vomit in a downtown. So, we got to save water so you guys can steam clean
Jill Borders.
Hi. The last caller should not move into a mobile home park because they they have strict rules about what you can plant. But I'm very happy here. And I wanted to comment on the fact that mobile home parks are known to be obviously more dense. But I want to specifically kind of give a shout out to acknowledge mobile home parks because they do not have lawns. And there are very, very maybe tiny, a couple here and there, they'll have a little tiny lawn for their dog to go to the bathroom on or something very small. But for the most part, all the landscaping here is done in a way that has been water efficient and contributing to the betterment of that side of things for decades. And so I've been really happy here in that regard. In addition, there are strict guidelines about what we can plant, and a lot of that has to do with water efficiency. So, and also even sprinklers, there's guidelines on those as well, so that they aren't spraying all over the place and there's no overrun. So oftentimes I think that mobile homes have this, little bad rap or something here and there, and some people would like to see us be something else someday. But a lot of times, I really want to acknowledge how really energy efficient and different, savings that you can have in mobile home parks as far as environmental. So we don't have any lawns around here. We have minimal plants. And I think that this would be a good place to even market, whether the city wants to or not, somehow for people to start even taking some of their plants that are outside, shrubs or whatnot, and using native plants, because we're all about saving water and saving money. So thank you so much. The report was really excellent. Thank you.
Back to committee.
Thank you. Councilmember Foley or Councilmember Cohen? I think you raised your hand first. Sorry about that.
It's okay. That doesn't. I'm willing to defer. The order doesn't matter. But anyway, thank you for the presentation. It's obviously a very important topic and becomes more so every day we have that beautiful sunshine outside. I just wanted to ask a few questions about can you put the slide back up, which has the actual changes and recommendations? I just want to understand where this is meant to apply. Obviously, this applies to new construction of buildings and large developments, right? But is this, and I assume it's also meant if there were new single-family home development as well. Any new construction? Yeah, so it would apply. The way it works now is it applies to anyone who's coming in to do new construction that has to get a permit through us. And so it won't capture anyone. It won't make anyone have to come in and get a permit. It's only if they're coming in to get a permit for something else. So if there anything that, if you were doing new construction on your home that required a permit, you wouldn't be able to put in anything new that violated these rules, but you wouldn't have to change what you have existing unless it were being done as part of that construction? Correct. Only if you, as part of that, we're going to redo your landscape as part of that whole process. As part of that work. Yes. But if you were redoing your landscape on your own, which doesn't require a permit, then there's really no rules that we can enforce in that regard, right? Correct. Okay. And then the hardscape limitation, obviously that's also applies to, so all of these apply to all of those types of construction that require permits. Yes. Okay. And then again, with the sprinkler, it means if you're putting in a new irrigation system as part of that permitted construction. The sprinkler aspect would be for turf only. And then if you had to put in, if you're doing a landscape project and you fell within this criteria, yes. Okay, and on that item, if you were putting in native plants and other things that required watering, you'd have to put in drip bubbler system with it, but not sprinklers. Yeah, that's correct. And I should have added to the bubbler and the drip system are specifically designed for low water use plants, so they work really well for that plant type. Not so well for high water using plants. So if you were doing, if a small developer or a homeowner were doing work and pulled a permit, and they would be specifying the landscape work that they're doing and have to use approved vegetation off of the low water list. That's correct. It is the exact name of it here. It's in our council memo too for your consideration. It's the California Invasive Plant Council. So we like to refer back to another group that is constantly updating their list of approved plants. And I just want to also say that we ought to be, I know the Water District has funding to convert existing lawns, and they do some promotion, but I have found that we don't promote it enough, that people don't really know about it. So maybe as part of this, we ought to be figuring out how we as a city can partner with the water district to promote their rebates that they have, to try to encourage people to do conversions of their existing lawns. Do we have any thoughts about how we could, I mean, we do some promotion, I assume, but do we have any thoughts about how we could do that more to get more people engaged? Yeah, you're right. Every water retailer actively participates in that program and encourages it. Can we do more? Absolutely, especially as we head through this drought. It'll be imperative. So we're actually anticipating that'll be a larger component for us over the next couple of years, is not only to get more people signed up with Valley Water and a rebate there, but also look at other grant opportunities to expand the program even beyond what Valley Water offers right now. Okay. Thank you. I guess I'll go ahead and move your report and recommendations.
Second.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. Jeff, thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of questions about this slide as well. So just to follow up on the new construction, it's any time on any property that a permit is taken out where landscaping may be part of the permit?
Yes.
Okay. Then why are we limiting the hardscape from prior is no limitation, and in the proposed change limiting it to 50%? Why would we decrease the amount of hardscape allowed?
And that one goes back to the urban heat island effect, and then also the carbon sequestering aspect. So the goal with that would be to reduce the amount of heating of the pervious or impervious surface to really have that healthy soil with the plants, the corresponding plants that absorb the heat a little bit more without radiating it back out. It's more from if I answer that, let me see if I can put that a different way. It's really to address urban heat island effect.
Okay. I would add that we don't want paved over lots in the city. That's not helpful, as Jeff mentioned, from our carbon sequestration, but it also can result in additional heating required for the home and other impacts. So we're trying to balance water use and kind of all the climate goals.
Okay, I appreciate that, but it might be cheaper for some folks to put in hardscape in their backyard, for example, and put plants in pots in their backyard, or trees, that sort of thing. So I mean, I understand the environment. Thank you for the environmental answer. I understand that, but limiting it to 50%, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's a big issue, but I'm just kind of curious as to the 50%, and I'm not sure we need that in there, frankly. But I understand where you're coming from.
And also, as you might imagine, organizations like Baykeeper and others reminded us that, when there's too much hardscape, the runoff of water is also not helpful to our waterways. And so trying to balance multiple initiatives. Jeff, could you help us out a little bit? And what is the definition of hardscape?
I'd have to go back and look. It's basically any impervious or.
So they could do pavers, they could do other things that are more pervious.
Yes, that's correct. And walkways don't count either. So it would really just be putting concrete everywhere would be it. So walkways don't count and patios don't count as usable space. So, and also too, when it comes to the backyard, This is really for new construction, which primarily is the frontage along the frontage along a roadway. And if it was a single family home, which are rare now, and if there was landscape as part of that, it's really just the front yard, if they're doing landscape as part of that project. So anyone that wants to do, we try to stay away from anything in the backyard. So if someone do something back there, that they're not caught up in this.
Okay, good, thank you. Then I have a question for you about the turf restriction, prohibiting turf being installed except for recreational areas. Can you define what a recreational area is? How activated does it have to be considered a recreational area?
And again, we're focused on front yards. So Jeff, I think it's important that we continue to.
Well, actually, I'm talking about major construction projects, development construction. In particular, I have one in District 9, Cambrian Park Plaza, Cambrian Village, that will have 7 acres of parks being installed, and one of it is in a substantial green grass area where the idea is that kids will be playing. So I'm just wondering what effect this proposal will have on that development and that component in particular.
And it wouldn't, for that particular example, it would not have any impact. That would be a recreational area, and they'd be allowed to install turf and spray irrigation.
Okay, so can you define then, just help me understand what a recreational area is? I mean, I understand if it's a soccer field, that's a recreational area. This is more of a kids are going to throw a frisbee and, play hack-a-sack and that kind of thing. So they're just hanging out with a blanket and having a good time. So is that there's still an exemption and that's considered recreational?
Such as a park, yes. Such as a park, playground, green belt, any area that people would use to walk on, not an ornamental look, but if it's going to be used to walk on, then that would be recreational.
Okay, great. Thank you. Everyone, that's all the questions I had. Everyone else asked my other question. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Foley. Councilmember Perales, you had your hand up and it went down. I just wanted to check.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, my question was answered through Councilmember Foley's questions. Thanks.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. The first one, so Parks was just telling, we had an issue at Del Monte Park with our drip irrigation system being eaten up by rodents. So I would normally have no problem with drip bubbler requirements, except that they are maybe not as sturdy as the sprinkler system. So I'm wondering if we've taken that into account or if that was part of any of the comments.
No, but there are different ways of doing bubbler irrigation systems. For example, you could do hard PVC pipes, which with the little hoses coming off of it. So there are different methods of achieving the end result.
Okay. And I did notice in your stakeholder engagement, you didn't have any list of builders, or there was one landscape management. And I'm wondering if the outreach, I mean, I understand that these stakeholders are easy to outreach to, but when you say you reached out to the Department of PBCE, did they reach out to their stakeholders as well? Because I didn't see any builders on here.
No, the only one that we really reached out to was the Water and Energy Committee for the Chamber of Commerce, which was populated by different business entities, large companies around the South Bay. And so that was the business aspect that we went to, but not a developer aspect.
Okay, since this, I have a problem with that. I'll just be frank about it. I have a problem with that because we're not talking about the average company doesn't build a headquarters more than once in a few decades. I know Adobe's building on right now, and a lot of them are leasing that are members of Chamber of Commerce or already have their office parks and aren't doing a bunch of construction. And I think this will affect the developers of large and small residential projects the most, and not outreaching to them is a huge hole in your stakeholder engagement. And so I mean, all these changes seem relatively fine for me, but the first thing that popped up for me was, okay, high water use plants are prohibited and we're encouraging native plants, but what about fruit trees? They use a lot of water, and I would think that those would be desirable. So those are the kinds of things that I think a landscaper or a builder who is working with homeowners or was creating homes would think of and bring up. So can you tell me about individually about fruit trees, for example, and then also about what you might be able to do before this comes to council to outreach to stakeholders who could do a little bit of ground truthing on these?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll go back and try to get that engagement done prior to coming back to council. And when it comes to usually I'll go back and double check, but fruit trees, vegetable gardens, any edible plants are typically exempt. We'll go back and make sure that carried through with these new amendments. But any fruit or food-bearing plants are usually exempt from watering restrictions and any other type of planting restrictions.
Okay, and then in the irrigation, is that only when irrigation is warranted? Because we have my front yard is completely native and drought tolerant, and we just didn't put in any irrigation. So do they have to have an irrigation system, or can you just not do it?
You don't need to have an irrigation system now.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to ask the maker of the motion to delay. I think staff is probably going to want a little more time than 7 days to do their outreach to the stakeholders. I'd like the maker of the motion to delay the referral, which in the memo is listed as for March 15th, which is next Tuesday, for maybe a few more weeks. So Jeff and his team have some time to do some more stakeholder outreach.
If we don't have a motion yet, I'm happy to make that motion with the deferral.
I think Councilmember Cohen made the motion and Councilmember Foley seconded it.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with the deferral. I'm struggling with with understanding what the objections would be in this case, but I mean, it doesn't really matter to me about the timing, except that, as we all know, those of us on the Rules Committee know, making sure that we have good balance of things on different agendas is important, and so I always hate to defer things unnecessarily. But I mean, having a couple more weeks to do that outreach is okay with me. I guess the question for staff is, what do you envision doing between now and a few weeks from now in order to make sure that you've done that additional outreach?
Well, we kind of looked around for developer stakeholder groups that we could get in touch with, but none were really, none that really popped out as a go-to. So
Can I suggest the BIA?
Great. We'll look at that one.
Councilmember, we'll work with economic development and PBCE to define the most appropriate way to get to the target audience that you're suggesting. And if we could have until at least the first week or two of April, that would help us ensure that feedback works its way into the memo.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that. Is that all right with you, Councilmember Cohen?
That's okay.
Thank you. I just think it's really important to ground truth our proposed changes for the folks who are going to be most impacted by it. And in the absence of going out to everyone who's planning a renovation in their home, I'm sure there's a landscaper association as well, but the BIA came up for me just immediately that was not on the stakeholder list, and they're the ones building homes. So I agree, Councilmember Cohen. I don't know what the issues might be with these or what the suggestions might be, but that's sort of the point. We're not the people on the ground having to implement these after they are enacted. Councilmember Foley.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Davis, for bringing that up. I actually had that on my list to ask that question about the stakeholder groups too, and noticed that they were missing. So I'm glad, as the maker of the second, to extend to the timeframe to bring it to council to allow for that engagement. And I think starting with the BIA is a good place to start.
Thank you. Right. I appreciate the maker of the motion and the seconder amending their motion. Are there any other comments or questions? All right, we will take the vote.
Esparza, Morales,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 2, the San Jose Santa Clara Regional Wastewater Facility Capital Improvement Program Semi-Annual Report. Mariana?
Hi, good afternoon, members of the committee and public. We have our report for the semi-annual report for the capital program at RWF. Our division manager for the program, David Olson, will be making the presentation, and we are all available for questions at the end.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Olson, Division Manager with Environmental Services. Just want to get right into the presentation. Let's see. As a quick reminder, the CIP is based on the plant master plan that was adopted by the San Jose and Santa Clara in late 2013, which recommended more than 100 capital improvement projects to rehabilitate and modernize the facility. In early 2014, staff completed a validation process that prioritized these projects and formed the basis of the current CIP and 10-year funding strategy, which were approved by TPAC and Council. We are the largest capital program in the city, and we're in the 7th year of a 10-year program valued at $1.4 billion. Through the end of December 2021, we had committed roughly $800 million for the planning, design, and construction of critical rehabilitation projects at the facility. During this reporting period, we made significant progress in key program areas. Following Council's approval of the dewatered biosolids management strategy in June, staff finalized the procurement documents for off-site disposition contracts. They were advertised in November and were due last month. Staff anticipates awarding a few disposition agreements in the coming months, as no single proposer has enough capacity currently to manage all of the facility's biosolids. Services are anticipated to begin in fiscal year 24-25 when the dewatering facility comes online. Testing, startup, and commissioning of new and rehabilitated facilities requires significant commitment of resources from both CIP and O&M staff to mitigate operational conflicts and potential construction delays. In early 2021, staff brought on 2 full-time consultant experts, startup and commissioning experts, to support our projects, including the development of frameworks and protocols for all startup and commissioning activities, as well as defining requirements for submittals and manuals. Last summer saw a ramp up of these activities, and during one peak, there were 4 projects working concurrently in the RWF's nitrification area. To ensure the plant had enough treatment capacity available for the wet season, CIP worked with the contractors to develop robust sequencing plans for startup and commissioning activities. This advanced work laid the foundation for successful pre-operational, functional, and operational testing of the new equipment, which allowed the treatment area to be put back in service before the wet season. We anticipate significant activities again this summer, which will require the continued support of our consultant experts. During this reporting period, we had 23 active projects. This chart shows that 20 of them are being delivered by the design bid build delivery method. The projects highlighted in green are those that advance the stage in our project delivery model. The other 3 projects are being delivered using the progressive design build approach. During this period, we had 7 projects in feasibility and development. For the aeration basin modifications phase 1 project, staff developed the scope for the feasibility study and began negotiations with the consultant to perform work. The project will rehabilitate and make process improvements to a small number of aeration tanks in order to evaluate the performance of the selected technology prior to full-scale implementation. Staff also finalized the scope of the new Headworks access road project, which will construct a permanent road from the RWF's construction entrance to the new Headworks 3 transfer point for septic hauling and chemical trucks. The scope will also include proper drainage and spill protection for the road. Also during this period, the yard piping improvements phase 2 project completed a condition assessment of several critical pipe segments. Design for those segments is currently underway. We also had 6 projects in design and bid during this time. The city opened bids for the outfall channel project in August, and council awarded that construction contract in October. And construction began just at the beginning of this year. The city also received bids for the storm drain system improvements project. This month, we are recommending award of the construction contract to TPEC and council. And finally, during this period, the design builder for the dewatering project completed the 60% design. They also began early site prep work and final design in August. A negotiation of the fixed price contract was completed in December, and council approved the definitive contract amendment last week. Finally, we have 9 projects in construction ranging in value from $3 million to $127 million. You've seen this map before, and as you can see, we still have several projects in active construction that requires CIP staff to coordinate construction activities very carefully to prevent impacts to schedules and costs. And I'd like to highlight 2 of those projects right now. The first one is the Headworks project, which began construction in the summer of 2020 and is approximately 54% complete as of this reporting period. This video shows construction progress as of November 2021. We're looking east over the new Headworks facility with the existing RWF to the left of the trees. In the foreground is the new grit removal facility, and to the left is the new electrical building. As we pass over the grit building, you can see 5 covered openings where the new raw sewage pumps will be located. This is followed by the new influence screening facility on the right, which includes compactors to process the screenings for off-site hauling. Here are some other construction photos of the Headworks site. On the left is the partially paved emergency overflow basin. When it's finished, it will provide 12 million gallons of emergency storage capacity. And on the right shows the installation of a new bar screen. These photos show the installation of the 96-inch pipe that will convey effluent from the Headworks 3 to the downstream processes at the plant. This challenging work was also involved the realignment of the existing Santa Clara pipeline, as seen in the middle photo. The second project I'd like to highlight is the switchgear M4 replacement and G3, G3A removal project. Construction also began in summer of 2020, and through December was approximately 82% complete. These photos show the installation, actually the delivery and the installation of the M4 switchgear enclosure. This is actually located on the eastern side of the campus near the new cogeneration facility. And these are photos of the interior of the new enclosure, which was commissioned in October, as well as some of the new ducts and supports for the new equipment. And finally, looking ahead through June of 2022, we expect to reach substantial completion on 3 projects. We just obtained council approval of the definitive contract amendment for the dewatering project. As I mentioned before, we'll be looking to award the construction contract for storm drain, and we will be coming back later this fiscal year for the 4th and final construction contingency increase for the digester project to settle the contractor's inefficiency claims. We also anticipate advertising the construction contracts for the fire life safety upgrades and HVAC improvement projects. And that concludes our presentation. We're available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. We'll go to members of the public first.
Tessa Woodmansey.
Thank you so much. Great. So the regional wastewater facility, you know, so much of our water can be saved onto our property. It's very critical that we get into these modes of public safety. And one of the issues with public safety is water. I mean, that's what we're facing right now is a drought, a very, very serious drought as we go into our third month of no rain. And so, you know, this is our rainy period. And so, you know, the thing is we have to become hyper local about everything. And that's really the message because, you know, if we really look at our water use, it's agriculture that is very wasteful in the way they use their water. And then of course, in terms of our fossil fuel, that it has to be shipped to our homes. And, you know, so then we get back to this statement that the climate scientists and biologists are saying, because climate change is real, therefore we must leave fossil fuels in the ground. That means becoming very hyper local in terms of our water supply, you know, that we have to be collecting our water. And these have to be requirements, not just if you'd like. Therefore, most people will not be able to drive or collect water or grow food. And therefore, more people will be in bicycles. They're going to have to start growing food. You know, these are the things that are happening. And the children need to learn this because we have our society with women working. We have lost all the skills of knowing how to preserve in the ancient ways. We say that we're on Ohlone territory. We have to go back to the Ohlone ways. And so therefore we must have safe engineered controls. And because we are deliberately excluding political and economic considerations, that's very important. Our only driving consideration is public safety. And that has to go on all levels of our world.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, thanks for the words of Tessa. Yeah, we're really trying to understand that in San Jose. What is the future of good community public safety ideas? You're trying to talk about a future of natural disaster preparedness practices that we can do as a community. Thank you that you're doing that. Earthquake preparedness, wildfire preparedness, and sea level rise are the three big ones that we really have to be considering in San Jose and for the San Francisco Bay Area. Tessa said it nicely. I'm trying to figure out, you know, the same thing that you're giving these wastewater reports recently, and there's not much mention of sea level rise issues. And I know you don't want to create an alarmist sense of things, and you don't want to be, I don't know, just overemphasizing things, but I think it's really important that as you're delivering these new reports on the future of the wastewater management facilities and their issues, that you politely learn to include, you know, how you're also doing this work to mitigate sea level rise and addressing sea level rise issues. It's just a factual part of our lives at this time, and I think you should start reporting it to ourselves so we can be clear what steps we're taking at this time. It doesn't have to be in mean-spirited in any way. It can be factual, and it needs to be factual. I think we need to know exactly why we're doing things we are at this time, because I think a lot of it does have to do with the incredible sea level rise issues we're facing in the South Bay. And so good luck how you can learn to talk about these things more open in terms simply of sea level rise issues. And this was the work that David Wall, a public commenter, he used to be a part of this work. Just a hi to him at this time.
Back to the committee.
Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, just quickly, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank staff at the wastewater treatment plant, Mariana, David, Knapp, all of you who keep track, manage this huge number of complicated projects. The work you're doing is like what big corporations are doing in major production facilities. This is not typical city work or city municipal work. So I just want to thank you for that, because the number of projects happening at one time, the amount of upgrades being done, all on behalf of so many residents around, you know, the entire valley and not just San Jose, and reminding people that this is the largest wastewater plant, in the Western United States. So it's a pretty impressive endeavor. So I just want to thank you. Also assure the community that sea level rise is a primary concern of ours. We talk about it regularly. I certainly do with staff, and I expect to have conversations on that topic as we move forward in the budget season. So really important, especially given the location of the wastewater plant and what's happening nearby. So we'll definitely be having those conversations. So anyway, I want to thank you and move the report.
Thank you. I'll second.
I'll second.
Oh, thank you, Councilmember Perales. Any other comments or questions? All right, we're ready for the vote.
Esparza, Perales,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3, pavement maintenance conditions, funding and program delivery strategy report. John.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And we're ready to jump into this. Frank Farshidi is going to do a presentation on where we are with the pavement program. So if you want to pull that up, Frank, and let's get going. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you to committee members. So we are here to present the pavement maintenance status report and funding strategy update. We're going to, next slide, please. So let's just from underneath the big picture. So if we were to open the hood and look underneath it, this is what we will see. So we have 2 major categories of our streets. We have major streets, arterials and collectors. That's 967 miles hour streets with an average PCI in a very good shape at 76. 2/3 of our network still residential, and that's 1,552 miles with a PCI, average PCI of 63. Now, if we go a little deeper into each category, as you can see, on major streets, we have we see a totally different picture, right? So we have 74% of those 967 in an A to or a B category, or in terms of pavement condition index, that's good to excellent, with the rest spread between C and D and F. And that speaks to the overall program that we've been doing, especially the augmented program since 2014, and with all the mileage and focus that we've been doing on major streets. On residential streets, though, we are also making progress, but we have a lot more work to do. On this side, as you can see, only 45%, so less than half, are in that good category. We started this program really with our contractual payment maintenance work back in 2019. So there's still work in progress, but we're making good progress. Go to the next slide, please. So now let's look at the big picture. So what do we see if we just look at the entire network and also how we're progressing? So on the major street side, comparing year over years from 2021 to 2022. So our major streets is hovering around 77. It has dropped by 1 point. This is again a projection from a street saver and database and analysis. But on the residential side, we have moved up by a point. So again, keep in mind that we're talking about 1,552 miles of street. So even though we're moving at full speed on this network, and especially on the residential, it's still going to take some time before we see the overall network going up. But overall, we're happy with the projection and the increase in the conditions. So again, from year over year, we have seen that increase. And also, please keep in mind, these are projections as of when we run those scenarios in our street saver. From funding and needs level, so we always refer to this pyramid. So again, a big picture. We have our pothole, which is our in-house program where we address any safety of the potholes and program management. So that's That's all funded, as well as our major streets and now residential as well. So the overall funding annual need is 83.5 million. Out of that, 7 million goes to pothole and program management, and the rest is distributed between the network based on the mileage again, right? So the major streets is 967. That requires a funding of 21 million roughly, versus residential with 55.2 million. So again, the numbers and the backlogs, I'll refer in the other slides, and there's also more detailed analysis in the report. Let's go to the next slide. So the historical condition again, going back to 2014 when we really started increasing the number of mileage on pavement maintenance side. So just so you know, as some of you know, before 2014 we were doing anywhere from 20 to 30, 40 miles per year, but 2014, that's when we started like increasing that to over 60 miles and just keeping whatever the funding that we were getting, quickly getting those projects out into the construction. It took a couple of years before we saw the actual improvement, but that bump that you see from 2016 to 2017, that's when we did have one full inspection of our network. So we actually found our network to be in a better shape than we thought it was. So that's the reason behind that jump. And then from that time, you know, we our PCI has been again on a growth and increase projection. So we have been using VTA Measure B and Measure T funds. So VTA Measure B was held for a couple of years, but we had an opportunity to put all the projects that we had in those 2 years in 1 year, and we saw that we're seeing the result of that and also ongoing. Next slide, please. So also on the funding status, so this is a familiar slide for some of you, that you've seen it in the previous years. So we are, for right now, we are funded. Our annual funding required to obtain 70 PCI is 83.5. Our average funding over the next 10 years is 81.2 million. So we, over the next 10 years, we have a small shortage of funding, but we're still, as you can see, you know, for the next few years, we are well funded. And the drop after 27, 28 fiscal year is mainly because of the Measure T funds that go away. And we're hoping to, you know, by that time, our goal is to get to every single residential streets by that time, and do at least one maintenance on those streets and keep the network in a good shape so we could maintain it at the lower level of funding. And also we think in future we could have grant opportunities. And as you can see in this graph, even after 2028, we are going to be well above $50 million a year. Our deferred maintenance backlog projection. So again, just a little background. So this is the projection that we do every year by we have a pavement management system in place. We input all the data and we run that, and then we'll get the results from the software of what would be our maintenance backlog. So, you know, very different story where we are compared to 3 years ago, as you can see in this graph. So back 3 years ago, this projection was over 1.1 billion if we kept it at that, you know, the funding at that level. But because of the funding and also just getting these projects out, you can see that backlog is getting crushed and it's going down. So this year it's gone up a little bit in the outer years, as you can see in this graph. So on the orange line, as you can see on the outer years, it's gone up a little bit, and that's mainly because the Measure T funding that is expiring after 2028. So next slide, please. Overall production history of our network and where we are. Again, we have some some spikes and valleys here, as you can see. But 2014, as I mentioned, is when we started our aggressive pavement maintenance program, and every funding that the city and the council allocated, we tried to get it out on the streets as quickly as possible. So you can see that projection: 66, 85, 96, 113. And 2019 is that 1 year that I mentioned. We had 2 years of META Measure B that we had planned and designed, and we were able to just go out for delivery in 1 year. So that's the big spike there. And this year we're going to actually have the biggest program that we've had since 2014 with 303 miles, but 53 miles of those are from deferred from last year, from winter suspension that we had. So that explains in lower number from 2021 and then higher on 2022, but still we're on track to deliver all of those. And also in the next couple of years, we are expecting to do hovering around 245 miles. Next slide, please. So with that, I'll hand it over to my colleague, Annie A. So she will be speaking to actual project level, down to the project level, and more details on that. Annie, please take it over.
Good afternoon, everyone. For our 2022 pavement construction season, we have 29 projects with the goal to maintain 250 miles within the city. Out of those 29 projects, 15 are in the category of major construction contracts, and the award dates are shown on the tables. The 2 projects highlighted have already been awarded. The remaining 14 projects are in the category of minor construction projects, where 11 of them have already been awarded. And 7 out of those 11 were awarded to local and small businesses. For our minor construction contracts, we plan to complete construction by mid-May. In our local and neighborhood streets network, it is organized of 135 geographically contiguous pavement maintenance zones. These zones were broken down with the goal for efficient planning and delivery of pavement programs, maximizing work completed in a neighborhood area, and to provide geographic spread across the city. In our planning phase, we do consider equity priority communities as a tool. Here are some before and after photos of 19th Street and Minutes Drive. The PCI before we did our work was in the low 40s, and the current PCI is now 98 for both streets. This year, we plan to have 13 minor and 10 major construction projects for the local and neighborhood streets program, which is about 191 miles. And we have a total funding of $63 million that is mainly from Measure T and Measure B. We are mainly focusing on zones that are considered poor or failed areas to maximize their cost-effective treatment. And approximately 458 miles have been maintained in the last 3 years, which is about 30% of our network. Innovation. This past year, we piloted a new project with the goal to reduce carbon footprint in one of our 88 construction projects, where we are using innovative technology to inject carbon dioxide gas into the concrete, which reduces 5% of the carbon footprint. One of our goals is to continue with this innovative technology for our future 88 projects, having the potential to reduce 650 tons of CO2 emissions in the next 10 years. And I will now pass it back to John to close us out.
Thank you, Annie. And that completes our report. We're ready for any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We'll go to members of the public first, and I'd like to request that we change the timer to 90 seconds. It is getting late and we still have another report.
Mr. Mendoza?
Yes, I'm Mr. Mendoza. I'm calling from District 7 and I see the reports. I mean, it's 21 million in the budget, grants, and then you get 63 mils from D&T. And still, my streets that I commute every day from Tally, okay, to Lucretia are not even pavement like the pictures are there. So and then when you're coming back and you're going over on Tally Road, and that's a main street that gets you to 101, okay? It's a big pothole that's been there since, I think, 2019. And you guys say it's full speed, so we need to put more speed to this, okay? It's not enough. We need to do more. We're the 10th biggest city in the whole nation, okay? And I think this is not right, okay? Thank you very much.
Tessa Woodmansey?
Okay, good. 90 seconds, she said. Okay, good. So, okay, fine. That's fine if you want to do it there. Fine. Okay, good. So basically what I'm saying is the same thing. This is the Department of Transportation and the Environment. And when we're looking at taking Measure B monies that are from our consumer purchases, our tax dollars, and putting it just to pave our roads without addressing our real goal, which is to eliminate pedestrian and walking deaths and disabilities. That needs to be our goal. And the way the decision tree is, because climate change is real, therefore we must leave fossil fuels in the ground. Therefore, most people will not be able to drive. Therefore, more people will be in bicycles, including children. Therefore, we must have safe engineered controls. And because we are deliberately excluding politics and economic considerations, our only driving consideration is public safety. And so that needs to be as we go forward. And so, you know, that like Kat said, is that we need to put cement, we need to use our cement budget to put separation between the bicyclists and the cars and the door zone. We make zebra lines for the door zone. These are how we get people out of their car, because people are scared to ride their bicycle. I know that, okay? They're scared, they don't feel safe. We have to change to make them feel safe. And this is the only way we're gonna go forward, you know, to provide this public safety, is we have to engineer the safety into our roads, and he designed it. You put barriers between the cars and the pedestrians. You take one of the lanes and you do that.
Blair Beekman?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot, Councilperson Davis, for starting the timer at 1 minute 30 seconds. That offers a lot of flexibility, I think, for ourselves in the future. Thank you. To speak, to continue ideas of natural disaster preparedness, which I think San Jose is doing a remarkably good job at. Measure T public oversight, you know, specifically designed funding for you know, the restructuring of overpasses and bridges in San Jose, you know, whatever that term is, I can't remember right now. So, you know, we're considering these things and preparing well. And I think, you know, Measure T Public Oversight Board deserves credit for that. They've been wanting to develop a process that can be more publicly accessible for their commission process. And they've been talking about that since at least last summer. And, you know, that perfectly brings up the ideas of, you know, the accountability and oversight guidelines with technology that is specifically meant to help ourselves as community facilitate, you know, good practices and better conversations and openness about issues. So they're asking those questions. I think we should answer, and to be preparing ourselves, you know, for whatever natural disasters are in our future. That's important. And to practice openness and accountability, as always, just incredibly decent and good-hearted for all of us. Thank you.
Call-in user number 1.
I mean, we got to prepare for natural disasters because we've got a lot of natural disasters right on the city council. I mean, the city hall is a natural disaster, but you got to use money to fix the roads, to invest in infrastructure. This whole thing with the bicycles, it's not going to work. You think it is, it's not. Those stupid scooters are a nuisance. These bike lanes that are not done correctly are a nuisance. The roads need to be paved and properly painted like they did on Cherry Avenue. I mean, I'm going to give San Jose a little cred for actually doing something right. But one of the only few things the city has done right in my whole life is repave and repaint part of Cherry Avenue. It's great for everybody, but it seems as if they can only do it on one block and then the rest of it's all screwed up. That's what San Jose does. They like to screw it up and then charge you more in taxes and have all these committees to study things for 50 years. It's a joke. This city is a joke. I mean, can you imagine sister city? I bet Russia's happy to get rid of San Jose. Could you imagine coming all the way from Russia and coming to this place going, this is hard, the Silicon Valley? Really? Wow. We don't have cities this bad in Russia under Putin. Wait, gosh, your city council's more left-wing than we are. Gosh, we don't have
Please
any
stay on
crap our
topic.
street.
We're talking about pavement.
Yeah, pavement. What's on the pavement? You know what's on the pavement. You guys know. You guys want to squelch everything. You guys are.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. Do any members of the committee have questions or comments about our pavement? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to accept this report.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Can we have a vote, please?
Esparza, Perales,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to request a motion for a deferral for item 4, which is the Move San Jose Citywide and Supportive Policies Report to April, given the late hour and the concern about potentially losing quorum at 4:30.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Can I get a vote on the deferral, please?
Perales,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Cohen, Davis.
Yes.
Okay, it passes.
Right, thank you. Given that, and I thank you, DOT, for allowing us to defer one of your many items on today's calendar, we will move to open forum. And again, I would like to ask for 90 seconds, please.
Calling user number 1.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks to the Pam Foley's, Captain Tibaldi's, and SJPD for making me woke about calling in these city council meetings. You know, these guys, once you have a bad deal with your city and your government, it's hard not to forget. Now, is it? Pam Foley told me to forget what's happened in the past. I guess maybe everybody else in the world who's, supposed to forgive, like say the people who fought for civil rights, are they just supposed to just forget what their police department did to them, what their government did to them? There's a reason why people don't like this city. You don't treat people right, whether it's the police or the permit department. It's a terrible city. It really is. You should all be ashamed of yourself. I can't say it enough. If you're downtown, I mean, really, you guys have sister cities. Imagine when they come visit. Oh my God, I couldn't imagine coming from around the world and seeing downtown San Jose, 5 blocks any which way from City Hall, walking around. You guys must have to shield these people when they come to visit your crappy town. You should be ashamed of how that whole downtown looks. It should be a vibrant place, and it's not.
Tessa Woodmansey.
Okay, good. That's 90 seconds. 90. No, it's not 59. It's 90. That's what a minute and a half is. So can you please start it again at 90? Is there no problem? Okay, now you're not even giving me the time.
I'll be adding
good.
30 seconds.
Well, you can't. Then if you can't figure it out, then we need to have 2 minutes. If it can't work, it's a waste of our time. Okay, so just start the clock again because I'm trying to figure out why you can't do 90.
Just add 30 seconds after your 60 seconds.
All right, fine. Okay, fine, sweetheart. Very good. All right, sweetie. So thank you for sending it again. Thank you, sweetheart. Okay, well, I'm just saying that we need to lead by leadership, lead by example. Our public servants who are our staff, and specifically, I'm thinking of John and Rizdell, Riser, whatever his name is, who's the head of our DOT. He needs to lead by example. We lost some very good staff for the DOT that were bicyclists, and they got fired. It's terrible. And he gets it, so he has a big second pension. This is wrong. And so we need the leadership from our government too. Our government has failed us. That's why we have our climate crisis. And that's why my son is running for mayor, because his platform is to make San Jose a food garden again and keep fossil fuels in the ground. That has to be. We're not talking about politics and economics. We're talking about public safety, and it needs to be our priority. And we need to get that message out. And I shouldn't having to pay $8,000. Anyone who wants to run for office has to pay $8,000 to get their message out or their bio. That should be included in our tax dollars. We shouldn't having to raise $8,000 because money is the root of all evil, and it's being fueled by fossil fuels. We see that with what's happening in Russia right now. We are fueling his military campaign with our purchases. And so to make our campaigns, you have to raise $8,000 to get your message out when we have a climate emergency and we need help. And so that needs to go away. We need to pay for that with our tax dollars, the voter's guide for our politicians.
Mr. Mendoza?
Hi, yes, thank you for these meetings. I've been learning a lot. Thank you, the speakers that spoke before me. From all of them, I learned a lot. Blair, thank you for noticing what I say. Thank you. You didn't have to, but I respect you a lot. You are a very good human being, very intelligent. I hope I keep learning from you. And I would like to ask the city council, not the city council, the committees, right? And to see if they can have like how you guys do it like now, or to talk about openly whatever you want to talk about. But maybe in the end, if somebody has a question, they can have at least one question per person. If it's and something that you guys can answer right there, so we can have more clear understanding by the end of the meeting. Because sometimes it's just votes and everything goes too quick and stuff like that there, and we're trying to keep up. So maybe like a question, like a QA at the end, at least one, if it has to do with the agenda of that day. Thank you.
Jill Borders?
Thank you. Two quick comments. One is I just want to keep it on the minds of everybody in City Council that we need to push to get the mobile home zoning overlay put over the 58 mobile home parks in the city. That was voted on, and thanks to Council Member, Pam Foley and Raul Perales and Sergio Jimenez and Maya Esparza, and you guys pushed to get that done, and I'm really grateful. I just want to see it happen. So if we could work on that to get that overlay actually on the land use map, I would really appreciate it. And the second thing is when we pass something, a development project like on Blossom Hill Road where the fish market is, we need to hold developers accountable and the owners of property to clean it up while they're waiting for the planning process to go through. There are weeds everywhere and garbage starting to pile up at that property. So thank you.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's patience. This meeting is adjourned.